Good afternoon. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks so much for joining us here on the network. At 3 o'clock, we're going to see President Trump make an announcement with the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. That will be from the Oval Office. Meantime, many of you may have seen the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs testimony of Anthony Fauci, the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Well, the complete failure held that position as a complete and total hack from 1984 until 2022. Here's a brief back and forth with Senator Rand Paul and Fauci, who pled the fifth 111 times.
Arising from or in any manner related to your service as director of the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, as a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force or the White House COVID-19 response team, or as chief medical advisor to the president. Have you refused this pardon, or do you have any reason to believe this full and unconditional pardon, this grant of immunity, would somehow require you to plead the Fifth Amendment?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Based on the facts presented, I'm going to direct you to answer the questions. The committee has issued a valid subpoena. They have requested your presence here. The questions are very pertinent to your decision-making as head of NIAID, as well as a chief advisor to the president. Do you still refuse to answer the questions?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Let's do the Dr. Fauci, were you ever made aware of gain-of-function research on monkeypox being conducted at the National Biodefense Analysis and Countermeasure Center, NBAC, at Fort Detrick?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Dr. Fauci, did the CIA ever transfer funds to NIH under an interagency agreement?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Interesting that leftists suddenly embrace the United States Constitution when it serves their evil purposes. I'll say it again. Interesting that leftists, they suddenly embrace the United States Constitution when it serves their evil purposes. They don't really like the First and Second Amendment, but they love the Fifth. Later in the broadcast, in case you missed it, we'll play the entire line of questioning from Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. We have a number of live interviews to get to as we get ready to see the president at the White House today. Meantime, let's go now to a video from the late Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral in D.C. just yesterday. And you may have seen that coverage here on Right Side Broadcasting Network yesterday as President Trump paid his respects and a tribute to the late Senator Lindsey Graham. Meantime, Washington, D.C., of course, is safe and beautiful again, thanks to President Trump's leadership. Let's take a look at clip number 3.
The work to achieve a safe and beautiful capital did not end with the incredible Independence Day celebration. It continues now. It continues every day. Under President Trump's leadership, Washington, D.C. is moving towards a safe and beautiful capital that the American people deserve. We are committed to making every national park, every memorial, every monument, every place that we are entrusted to steward, that we are going to leave those better than we found it.
Isn't it great to see that Washington, D.C. is safe and beautiful again? Awesome to be able to travel and check out various monuments, museums, and just be a part of the whole D.C. circuit there in the sense of just as a tourist, you know, safe and beautiful. It would be nice to see that happen in various cities across the country. We're seeing it in some places like Memphis. Crime's going down there, and I wonder why. The National Guard is there. Be great to see that happen in other cities across the Union. And to those of you that don't live in a city, I hear you. All right, so Bethany Miller, we're going to go to her in just a second. She's the managing editor of the Conservator. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy first. You've probably been hearing about the cyclospora parasite that's been making headlines lately. Health officials are investigating this growing outbreak that has now been reported in more than half of our states. So 31 states, we're told. The parasite can cause all sorts of symptoms: stomach cramps, severe diarrhea, nausea, fatigue. It's also a good reminder that unexpected illnesses can happen, which is why it's important to have a pharmacy you can count on for easy access to essential medications and physicians that can provide a prescription when you need it. And that's where All Family Pharmacy comes in, because they've made healthcare simple. Maybe again. You can order medications on their website and get the prescription from their doctors if needed. Then your medications are shipped directly to your door. They offer antibiotics like Bactrim, which is commonly recommended for this infection, along with anti-parasitic medications, everyday maintenance medications, allergy meds, and hundreds of other prescriptions. All you have to do is visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can save 10% by using that RSBN 10 promo code. And you could also give them a call, 561-717-6794. A number of ways to get to this great American independent pharmacy. You see it right there, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Birch Gold Group is another great sponsor here on Right Side. Let's go to the fact that we wouldn't be celebrating America 250 if it wasn't for a strong foundation set by the framers. Because Alexander Hamilton built America's financial foundation on the principle of sound, stable money, a principle later embodied by the gold standard. However, of course, we abandoned that discipline in 1971 and have since seen inflation erode the dollar's value. So what is the foundation of your savings? Is it gold or something that could be shaken, disrupted, or devalued? Birch Gold Group has been helping Americans solidify their savings with gold for the past 15 years. They'll help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You can learn how gold fits into your portfolio by texting the word Trump to that number, 989898. You'll receive that free, no obligation info kit as well. And they have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews. So you can let Birch Gold help build your foundation with gold. All you have to do is text the word Trump to that number, 989898. Again, text Trump to 989898. Some great sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go live right now to Bethany Miller. She's the managing editor of the Conservator. Thanks so much for joining us once again, Bethany.
Great to be on, always.
Definitely. So we're going to get into some Gen Z polling and seeing how they're doing, hopefully for the midterms, that kind of thing. And also get your take on the midterms coming up in less than 100 days. But something that we did not talk about in the pre-kind of communication is Dr. Anthony Fauci. Any of your thoughts about what he did today? 111 times he pled the fifth.
111. Isn't that crazy? It seems like we have something to hide, and I think our diary entries spoke to that extensively. The American people will write about this and write once more. I'm grateful we have an administration that's actually bringing truth to this and that is actually waking up to the fact that Fauci did lie to us and that he's actually being properly prosecuted. And I know this speaks a little bit to Gen Z, because at the end of the day, all Gen Z want is truth and transparency, and I think we are finally getting that. But I can't believe 111 times. Not even going to answer Senator Hawley's simple request of what color is your tie?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know my color. It's the North Carolina baby blue right here. You know what I mean? Like, just answer the question, Fauci. I called him a hack at the beginning of the broadcast. I'll call him a hack again because I'm allowed to have freedom of speech. And I think the American people probably have a number of other words that they'd want to put into that place. But let's move on. I know you've been working on various Gen Z research. Can you tell us what will help drive them to the polls for the midterms?
As I had mentioned, truth and transparency. Gen Z is an interesting bunch right now. I mean, we know in 24 that it was the young male vote that draw that Trump victory, and we are so grateful for that. But I do want us to be clear-eyed on the fact that Gen Z has been a little unsure of how they feel about the conservative movement. And we want to continue to bring them back and make sure that they remember that we are the party of truth and transparency and that you will not find that on the left. And I'm grateful for our administration, especially for Rubio, who's made some great remarks on what exactly the far left is operating under, especially with the mask of Marxism and communism. So I think when it comes to Gen Z, I think we just need to remind them that truth and transparency is the #1 goal of the Trump administration, and also that we are cleared on what comes after Trump and we are cleared on what comes after MAGA.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, truth and transparency, right? Truth, justice, the American way, all the things. You know, it's what our bread and butter is here in this great country, the United States. And also, what does Gen Z think of Zoran Mamdani's socialist policies?
Oh, much can be said there with Mamdani. And you know, he overwhelmingly won the under 30 votes because he preached that he had truth and that he had transparency, and he preached affordability, and that we know that inflation and the economy is something that Gen Z is very, 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 focused on. And Mamdani said that they could do that. He can freeze rent, he can provide free transportation and city-run grocery stores, which we know that didn't go so well in other places like Venezuela or Cuba or the Soviet Union. But we won't, touch on that too much. But I think that especially with the latest that I'm sure you saw, he's doxing over 900,000 of residents with homes like Anna Wintour and Woody Allen and things like that. Taxing the rich is not gonna help the issues that we're having in socialist New York City. So I as a Gen Zer myself, I'm really concerned about our September 11th coming up, and somebody like Mamdani as mayor, who is more sympathetic to the terrorists than they are to what happened on 9/11, is something that I'm very concerned about, and I really hope it does wake up Gen Z.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the 25th anniversary of 9/11 coming up this September. And it was hard to listen to all of your answer when you said the words socialist New York City. Those words are together now. This is not, a figment of our imagination. This is not, oh my gosh, watch out for communism, socialism. It's on our shores now. What do? Get the Save America Act passed, right?
Yes, it is. Save America Act is definitely step one. And also, I do think it is just reuniting our base, our conservative base. Stop the infighting. Let's get this act passed. Let's bring back the truth and transparency that we all fight for at the end of the day. I was really hopeful that 250 would bring back that kindred spirit amongst conservatives so that we are cleared on what is up against us. And I appreciated Rubio's remarks on communism because that is our fight. Our fight is against Marxism. So I really do pray and I hope that our conservative base we'll get together arm in arm, and it starts with passing Save America Act. It starts with unifying Congress, and it starts with getting our young voters, all our voters, anybody of any age to unite around the fact that we've got a country to save, and that starts right here, right now.
Bethany, I want to close with the following. If we fast forward to say it's 2031, the year 2031, ideally, we're in the golden age. Ideally, all of what President Trump and the administration has done, we're on the right track. The Save America law is in place, and we have our freedoms. We have all the good things. On the other side of the coin, if it happens to be that the Democrats are in charge and our country is looking atrocious, what would you how do you prep for something like this? I mean, this is really, my point is, what is it going to take for us to realize the seriousness of what we're facing if we don't pass something like the Save America Act?
My answer is not great. Unfortunately, I do a lot of work with the military, and I recently had an Army captain tell me, we might have to have another terrorist attack happen for us to wake up. We might have to have some other form of 9/11 for us to remember what exactly it is we're fighting for. We have to, I think so many of us who are voting for democratic policies and pushing the DSA movement is thinking that socialism and communism is something that it's a toxic, empathetic view of humanity. And we're like, oh, we just have to love each other. We tax the rich. It's the rich that created this establishment. But what they don't realize is that when Trump came down that elevator in 2016, he broke the establishment. He was the man that he made himself. He is a product of the American dream. And just because his skin color is white does not mean he's the enemy. Like, it comes down to basics like that. And so I would say that my answer would be, if we would just wake up, or even send all of our American citizens over to the Middle East and come back and see how great we have it here. I mean, I spent some time in Europe over the summer, and I came back going, I could not love America more. But I do think we've gotten too comfortable. We've gotten too informed by what's on our phones than we have about what's the reality of the world. And so I think if our American citizens spent some time doing that, they'd wake up to that reality and they would pass that Save America Act, and we would save our country, starting with the midterms.
Isn't that something? You know, when you actually have a little bit of world travel, right? I want to ask you quickly the countries you've been to, but also I've been to England. I've been in the airport in Rome and Singapore. I've been to Australia. I've been to Chad, Africa. I've been to Nicaragua. The list goes on. When you come back to the United States, you almost want to get down on your face and kiss the soil because you love the country so much and the freedoms. And then you go to these other countries and they know that America is a place to be free. You know, this is really what we're fighting for, figuratively speaking, aren't we, Bethany?
It is what we're fighting for. And it's quite ironic because the people who say they hate this country don't seem to want to leave it. So we definitely do have something that's worth preserving. And that is why the West is so great. And the West is a leader of the free world. And the West is something that all other countries look to. I spent some time in Israel for work, and so many people there were saying, looking to, like, I even saw some kids just in the street corners listening to Trump or even listening to a Charlie Kirk podcast. But everyone was looking to the West. They were looking to what all these podcasters had to say. They were even interested in what, like, Tucker Carlson was saying. You know, that's crazy to me because I'm thinking I'm going to go to another country and take part in a different culture and take different parts in media. But they're looking to us. I'd go to somewhere in Asia and they have T-shirts with American writing on it. Like, we are where everybody looks. And we have to remember that we can't look like the third world. We are the West.
That is so true. And then President Trump saying the same thing about the third world. If we don't pass the Save America Act and they nuke the filibuster on the leftist side, we will look like a third world nation in many ways. Dr. Ben Carson recently on the show saying this nation is not here by accident. We're here for a reason. And to your point, look at that. You just said it, boots on the ground. You heard that people are watching American media. No wonder there's such a fight for the American media landscape here. And that's why conservative media is the way to go for the future, because we're on the side of the people. Last word, Bethany.
I think you said it just perfectly, but we are on the side of the people. We must remember who we are. We must remember what America was founded for, and we must preserve it by voting in these polls this fall in the midterms for exactly that future. It's not the third world, it's the West, and that is the future we preserve. It's American.
Exactly, and we have many primary elections still upcoming for a number of states out there. Bethany Miller, the managing editor of The Conservator, thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side and your friendship to the network.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Good stuff there with Bethany Miller, also the comms director over at the National Religious Broadcaster. So, yeah, isn't it great to see that there are people on the right side of history speaking your language at home? Because you know what? That's what I would want. I would want somebody that is on camera, whether they're doing an interview or whether it's a podcast or a radio show. I would want to hear exactly what I'm thinking and feeling about common sense and what the nation needs to see happen. So anyway, let's go to a number of our great sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including freeusaDoggift.com. You see it right there. Let's take a quick minute to speak to all the parents out there. It's officially the dog days of summer, and if your house is anything like ours used to be, that means the dog sprawls out on the coolest tile floor you can find, refusing to move for anyone. It seems our dogs tend to run the house, and honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way. Well, here's a fun fact. Our founding fathers were the exact same way. Turns out, long before they were founding a nation, they were the original dog people, tails wagging in the halls of Mount Vernon and Monticello, muddy paw prints on important documents. Our founders loved their dogs every bit as much as we love ours today. And with America's 250th birthday, what better way to get kids excited about history than through the goofy, loyal, tail-wagging companions who are there for it all. So our friends at The Kids Guide have put together a great guide called The Kids Guide to the Founders' Furry Friends, giving kids a fun and heartwarming look at the dogs who stood and sat and probably begged for scraps beside our nation's founders. It's the perfect keepsake souvenir for kids, and they're giving it away for free at freeusaDoggift.com. Plus, when you request your copy, they're also giving you a second free guide called The Kids Guide to the Founder's Message for Today, a must-read for every child. So, during these dog days of summer, head on over to freeusaDoggift.com right now to get these free guides for your family and help celebrate America's 250th birthday the right way. Let's go to our next sponsor here on Right Side. You see TNUSA.com. Tax Network USA. Of course, there's a number of people out there that may have some back taxes. Maybe you missed a year to file. Well, however your tax issue started, the outcome is the same. You know, the balance is just not going down. Penalties are growing, interest compounds, and a number of people just have some financial questions out there, especially when it comes to the IRS, because the IRS, they're not waiting. The IRS is enforcing collections through wage garnishments, bank levies, property seizures. They can even file for you without your consent. And this is where Tax Network USA comes in. They have more than 15 years in business. There hasn't been a tax case they haven't seen or resolved. They specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. So whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. They can do the same for you, but you have to call now because they're offering this free investigation call with the IRS. And after that investigation, they put a clear case plan in place, and that'll be to resolve your tax problem and get you back on track. This is really about using your legal rights to get control before the government sets the terms for you. So don't wait for another IRS letter or a frozen bank account. Just give them a call, 877-479-6503, or go to tnusa.com/RSBN. Some great financial peace of mind right there with tnusa.com/RSBN. All right, we have a report here from Breaking 911 that the Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged for 5th time this year, and Kevin Warsh's second policy meeting as chairman. Breaking 911 referring to Fox for that report. All right, let's go to our next live interview here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. You know, one thing we're happy about is that we have some great guests here that join us here on the network. And right now we're going to go to Jacqueline Perez. She also goes by Jack, founder of Cool Life and one of the most prominent voices in the country on menopause and women's health policy. So, Jacqueline, thank you again for joining us. Can you tell us about what this is all about?
Wow, where do I start, right? I mean, how much time do we have? So it turns out that if you are gifted ovaries at the beginning of your life and you live long enough, you're going to transition through a process that's called menopause. Matthew, I'm sure you have women in your life, a wife, a mother, a sister, friends. And when you get to a certain age, you start to change hormonally and your physiology changes. And I'm really excited now because we as a country are starting to get on board to really help women and enable them manage this transition so that we can count on women to remain valuable members of our society. And I think it's a great time. It's a great time to be going through this transition. It's a great time to, so I mean, do you have any specific questions or did you just want me to talk about menopause in general?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we know that you're the founder of Cool Life, right? And also your thoughts about how our HHS and the government is doing when it comes to anything new that's been happening out there for women.
Well, I'm actually really excited about that, right? Because what happened in November of last year when the FDA removed a black box warning on a medication, estrogen, the estrogen patch. And for those of you in your audience that may not know what a black box warning is, it's basically putting a cross and skull, on a box. Now, who in their right mind is going to go pull something off the counter? It's basically like, here, have some Drano. Like, who's going to do that? And so what happened for over 20 years is that doctors, of course, got really afraid because they didn't want to prescribe something that could potentially hurt their patients. And women were taken off of this medication and symptoms just started to escalate. We've had a lot of issues, in globally for women. And part of it is when you go through this transition, it can look like early onset dementia. There is a study out of the UK where women were voluntarily leaving the workforce because they were misconstruing their normal natural symptoms of menopause as early onset dementia. We can't do that. We can't lose such valuable intellectual property and wisdom to quote unquote symptoms. That makes no sense to me at all, especially when there is an easy, inexpensive, non-invasive way to enable women to navigate this time. And I think it's a brilliant time now because we are making strides.
So the Make America Healthy Again movement, of course. And we're also, I'm going to ask you about Anthony Fauci, if that's all right, today with this 111 pleading the fifth. We'll get to that in a second. But what are your thoughts about RFK Jr. and Making America Healthy Again and some of the things that have been helping with women's health policy specifically?
Well, I do love the fact that this year over 19 states have pushed through bills to help women navigate this time by encouraging insurance companies to pay for the medication that women need. And even just most recently, Georgia, it hasn't gone through yet, but Georgia has a bill ready to be reviewed, and it was pushed through by Republicans. And so honestly, women's health is a bipartisan issue, right? I mean, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, when half of your population requires medical attention, you got to raise your hand and say, okay, let's get on board. So I'm thrilled that this is starting to happen because women need to be able to afford these medications. And for a lot of us, we're paying out of pocket. And that can be really expensive. And so when it gets really expensive, what are you doing? You're actually taking away medical care from some of our most needy and deserved individuals. So I love this new legislative landslide that seems to be happening, this new wave.
And can you tell us about Cool Life? It's KUEL Life. You're the founder of it. What exactly is it?
It is a digital platform that I created because I believe that information is power. And when I went through menopause, holy cow, it came at me like a tractor trailer. You name a symptom, I probably had it. And I thought to myself, okay, if I am suffering and I have, I have education, I have access to resources, I am somewhat intelligent and I can, speak for myself and I can advocate for myself. And I was having trouble getting help and resources. I went to five medical providers before one medical provider bothered to really look at what was happening and address those symptoms. And okay, fine. I'm a layperson. I'm a grassroots business owner. But Melinda French Gates, right? She, as a person of wealth and means, access to concierge medicine, I'm sure most of her adult life. She herself claims she had to go through 3 medical providers before someone figured out, let's just add a little bit of hormone balance here. And we're going to see everyone just all of a sudden, be able to speak, be erudite, be, not anxious. Yeah. So it's a great time right now. I think we're really making strides and I'm very excited to be part of it.
Yeah, definitely. So Jacqueline Jack Perez, founder of Cool Life, one of the most prominent voices in the country on menopause and women's health policy. Where can people go to learn more about the organization?
Right on the web, right? I mean, right on your phone. I mean, anywhere, your iPad. All you have to do is type in Cool Life, KUEL Life. And yes, cool is a real word. I found it in the Urban Dictionary. It's a synonym for, our regular old COOL, right? Which is great because I really believe that women can live a cool life the entire time they're here. And there's information there that's relevant to that demographic far beyond just the physiological changes.
Awesome.
So I encourage women to go educate themselves.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline Perez, the founder of Cool Life. Thank you again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It was wonderful to be here.
Definitely. Glad to have you. All right, good stuff there on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit more health here in just a second. We're going to go out west for that. Before we do that, let's go to the following, mypillow.com/RSBN. Of course, the great Mike Lindell and the great company there, mypillow.com/RSBN. A ton of great products on there you can check out. If you don't have any products from MyPillow, maybe get one if you'd like. mypillow.com/RSBN. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate. Let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side.
So Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
I guarantee they're going to be the most comfortable pillows you'll ever own. King size only $24.98, queen size only $19.98. Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, as low as $29.98. Lux Pierce 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. Plus free shipping options available when you order today. So don't delay, order now.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go out to Southern California. Conservative host of the Orange Report, Kira Davis, joins us live right now. Kira, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Matt. Good to see you again. Hope your summer's going okay.
Yeah, decently. Pretty good. Same to you out there on the West Coast. Question for you. Your thoughts about the 111 pleading of the fifth by Mr. Hack himself, Dr. Fauci.
I have to say, I was not expecting to be as emotional as I was watching that this morning, but I really just triggered, as the kids would say, it just triggered a lot of emotion. It took me right back to that time when, I had kids in school. My kids have since graduated, but that happened to be, 2020 happened to be my son's high school graduation year, which he did not get. And so, and then he didn't get a freshman year of college. So I just watching that man have absolutely nothing to say for himself, but worse, to see some of the, the evidence and the things that the senators were saying. He applied for up to 10 awards, some worth $1 million each. He applied himself for those awards, government awards, for his handling of COVID. He's put his staff on a full-time mission to get him these awards. Meanwhile, my children couldn't go to school. They were lonely. They were isolated. We couldn't see dying family members. Some of us lost children. I have friends, Matt, whose children committed suicide during this time. Young men who weren't allowed to go to football practice. Now, what do they do with all this testosterone and all this energy, already living in confused times, taking their own lives? This man is evil. And for him to sit there and plead the fifth, I'm sorry, I do not accept the auto pen pardon. And I hope our president doesn't either. And I pray to God he is working on ways to hold this man accountable. We need the hearings were great. He should be shamed and blamed, but we need accountability. I want to see people in handcuffs at least.
And I believe a lot of people agree with you on that. When I think of Joe Biden, I think of an actual illegitimate president. The real deal of illegitimacy. I can't even say the word correctly. It is what it is. But the point is, he was the fake president there. So yeah, his auto pen pardon should not hold any water or hold any weight either. So anyway, yeah, we can get fired up about this. This is a tough one. And you know what I was watching today? Yeah, the aspect of mental health during that time for people, well, I mean, it was a very, very difficult time for a number of Americans, let alone to take it to the point of what you're talking about, where people actually took their own lives. Then you have the whole situation of the Wuhan lab, and it's out of a movie. It's a Dr. Evil thing of let me concoct something and release this.
We can't let him get away with it, Matt. We can't, because that's a precedent we do not want to set in this country. If you don't think this is going to come back around, they're going to come back around for a try number 2 on this issue. I think that the one saving grace for us in COVID was that I think the ultimate plan was launched too soon. And I think it was supposed to be for later, so it wasn't fully developed. And Americans still hadn't been broken of their American spirit. And so we were the fly in the ointment the whole time globally. And so they're going to try it again. We have to make an example of this man. We must.
This is a globalist tactic that happened against the global population.
Yes.
And then we know who we are as American patriots. It's called Don't Tread on Us. We still believe in that. Like, it's our freedom. The Constitution is for us, we the people. And so for them to tell us that we have to X, Y, and Z do these things, man, I'll tell you, I might have worn a mask a few times on an airplane because they wouldn't let you travel if you don't have the mask on. I mean, come on. Yeah, oh my. I don't want to get talking about the parents either. I remember as a local reporter covering a number of stories where the parents, they pack out this school board meeting, and the 3 or 4 people at the front of the school board defend the masking, the 6 feet distances. And you're talking about, kids that are whatever age, young kids.
I ran for my school board.
Yeah.
I ran for my school board during COVID because of that very reason, Matt, because of watching our legislators just look us in the face and say, you know what? We don't care what you say. I lost that race because the unions weren't very happy to have a member of the media running. And so they threw everything at me. But that's why I ran. So I'm with you. It was infuriating.
We have such a fierce fighting spirit in America. We really do. We just don't get, because we're awake too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're awake now. Aren't we awake?
Yes.
A lot of people are awake these days. We're not listening to the mainstream media anymore. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And I love that you put it that way. We're awake now. And I almost feel like that awakeness is it's like an infection. You're beginning to see it spread, almost like the COVID sort of zombie virus spread slowly and then all of a sudden exploded. I feel the same way with this awakening. And I actually made a video on my Instagram yesterday. You can go find that at Just Kira Davis. Where I was just giving some thoughts about how, listen, there's some people who they're not going to give you the apology. They're not going to say, I was wrong about Fauci. I was wrong about COVID. We can't be bothered with those people. We can't be worrying about, I've got to convince these people. They're never going to backtrack. They're never going to turn around on this. It's like the trans delusion. They are already so committed to the harm they've done to turn around and to say I was wrong is to admit that you were horrible and that you deeply, deeply wounded people and deeply, deeply hurt this country. So we instead must be focused on the truth and focused on those of us who are awake, holding people accountable for the truth.
Exactly. Let's go to a 30,000-foot view about this cancer cluster that's happening in a wealthy California neighborhood. I know you wrote a Substack about it. Can you fill us in on what you're talking about?
Well, I feel like this directly relates to what we were just talking about, actually, Matt, with Fauci and health outcomes and our leaders not necessarily listening to the needs of the people and what people are saying. So I live in Ladera Ranch, which is that wealthy suburb. I'm sort of laughing at this descriptor of our suburb. It's certainly an upper middle class suburb. I don't know that we need the wealthy descriptor on here every time they talk about us. It's sort of, it kind of waters down our concerns, I feel, when I'm watching LA Times and New York Times, everybody use that descriptor. Anyway, we're a nice, quiet suburb in Southern California. And recently, people have started to notice that we have a disproportionate number of childhood cancer cases, particularly, I think it's Ewing sarcoma, which is a bone cancer disease. We've had 6 in our suburb of Ladera Ranch in the last 10 years. And this is a cancer that affects maybe 200 children nationwide every year. So that's a huge cluster, and people are starting to notice. And so the New York Post has picked this up, California Post has picked this up. This story is going viral. We don't know why our kids are dying. Here's the problem here in Ladera Ranch. We're a suburb. We're not a town. We're not a city. We're not incorporated. All we have is an HOA board. And everybody in this area, Matt, has been pointing fingers. We think a lot of parents suspect, we have no proof, but we suspect it's the pesticides that they've been spraying in our neighborhood for years and years. Almost every other suburb in Southern California has moved to an organic version of this pesticide that we use to spray for bugs or whatever they're spraying for. Even our next door neighbor has quit using it, but we still use these very harsh pesticides that have been linked to cancer. So we're trying to get answers to see where is this cancer coming from. There's something going on in our quiet, beautiful, peaceful suburb that's very dangerous. And it's becoming the Spider-Man meme, Matt, where everybody we ask, everybody we go to is pointing to a different culprit. The HOA is saying, this is not an us problem. This is what the contractors and what they're legally allowed to use. We can't tell them to change it. That's one of the explanations we got. And then they say, go to the county board. So we go to the county board and the county says, this is not really a county problem, but we'll advocate for you at the state level. We'll go to the state. We go to the state. The state says, we don't know what you're talking about. Here's a few records, but not all the records. And, maybe you should go visit your county board. And then the county board says, maybe you should talk to the HOA. And it's everybody just pointing fingers at each other. People pay good money to live here, and we have not a single answer about what's going on.
You know what's really annoying, Kira, is the fact that there's so much red tape across our country, not from the federal government. We see President Trump, the outsider, coming in and saying, okay, let's really run the show right now. But some of the local governments, I'm not saying everyone, thank God for our local police and first responders and firefighters and all. I'm not talking about that. But any of that bureaucracy and that red tape, for people like you, for people across this nation, oh my, I guess we got to vote them out. You know what I mean? This is not.
Well, this is my thing, Matt. How do you vote out communists? Because I live in California. So now we have a situation where the state is basically run by communists. Matter of fact, I was reading, we have a health watch group, a neighborhood health watch group. It's private. But one of our very dogged community members, she has made FOIA requests to the state for the list of pesticides that they use. And she made 82 FOIA requests, and I think they came back with 20. So she's missing, 60 documents. Who does she go to, right? To say, hey, I haven't been given what I have been promised or what I am owed constitutionally. I haven't been given. She can complain, and she's been doing an amazing amount of research. And anybody who wants to talk to any of these people who have been doing the research, I can connect you. But she has been doing an amazing amount of research, and yet there is no accountability. She has no one to go to except the rest of us who are as helpless as she is. We are being stonewalled at every juncture, including by our own HOA, who is supposed to be somewhat of a governing body here. And this is, again, my plea to everybody. I understand that this country has been so ripped and rocked by the two Trump administrations, by the surprise of that. We're very divided. We're looking at Antifa and all the anti-Semitism and all the stuff that's going on. I understand that people are constantly glued to what our president is doing. But the president didn't close your schools down. We were just talking about Fauci. The president didn't close your schools down. And if I would back up, Barack Obama didn't raise your property taxes. All of that is your local government doing that to you. And yet most people can name the president and senators, but they can't name their own mayors or their own local representatives. And these people have an immense measure of power in your day-to-day lives. Those are the people that shut your schools down. And those are the people that spray your children's playground in the middle of the night with pesticides that have been proven to be linked to cancer. You need to know what's going on in your local community, as boring as it might seem.
Wow. For everyone watching right here live on replay, I originally met Kira because I saw she wrote an article on the New York Post about Sydney Sweeney. Remember the whole Sydney Sweeney situation back in the day? I said, the way Kira wrote the article, I found her, and here she is a good friend here on Right Side. But where can people follow you now, Kira, as we have to close up the interview at this point?
Well, listen, go to justkiradavis.com. You can find more of my reporting on this issue and others. And Matt, let me give you a little tip. Since you like the Sydney Sweeney article, I wrote a follow-up article to that, kind of based on Sophie Cunningham. It's called The Rise of the White Girl. I think we're in a new era, everybody. You'll have to read to see what that's about. Go to justkiradavis.com.
Conservative host of the Orange Report out there in SoCal. Kira Davis, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Matt.
Definitely. All right, awesome stuff. Yeah, this is fun. I'll tell you, I could talk to Kira all day about so many different topics out there. Before we get to the RNC chairman, Joe Gruters, we interviewed him pretty recently. Let's go to a few of our sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go with All Family Pharmacy, because you've probably been hearing about that cyclospora parasite that's been making headlines lately. Health officials, they continue that investigation with a growing outbreak that's now been reported in 31 states. And we're told that the parasite can cause all sorts of awful symptoms, from severe diarrhea. You know how fun it is to say that word on TV every day? It is what it is, but that's one of the symptoms. Stomach cramps, nausea, and fatigue. It's also a good reminder that unexpected illnesses can happen, which is why it's important to have a pharmacy you can count on for easy access to essential medications and physicians that can provide a prescription when you need it. And that's really where All Family Pharmacy comes in, because they've made healthcare simple. You can actually order medications on their website, get the prescription from their doctors if needed, then your medications are shipped directly to your door. They offer antibiotics like Bactim, so it's spelled Bactim, which is commonly recommended for this infection. So they have antiparasitic medications, everyday maintenance medications, allergy medications, and hundreds of other prescriptions. So just visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use the RSBN10 promo code at checkout. You'll get that 10% off. Also, you can give them a call if you have any questions. 561-717-6794. This is a great American independent pharmacy. When you call them, it doesn't take hours to get a call back. Most likely, they're going to pick up right away. So there you go, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We wouldn't be celebrating America 250 if it wasn't for a strong foundation set by the framers. Alexander Hamilton built America's financial foundation on the principle of sound, stable money, a principle later embodied by the gold standard. However, we abandoned that discipline in 1971 and have since seen inflation erode the dollar's value. So really the question is, what is the foundation of your savings? Is it gold or something that can be shaken, disrupted, or devalued? Birch Gold Group has been helping Americans solidify their savings with gold for the past 15 years. They'll help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Learn how gold fits into your portfolio by texting the word Trump to that number 989898. You'll receive a free, no-obligation info kit. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews. Let Birch Gold help build your foundation with gold. All you have to do is text the word Trump to that number 989898. Again, text Trump to 989898. All right, so we know that at the top of the hour, the President and the Secretary of Transportation, of course, the great Sean Duffy, along with our great President, they'll be making an announcement at the top of the hour. Now, we are obviously less than, 100 days until the midterm election. It's going to be here before you know it. So the Republican National Committee Chairman, Joe Gruters, joined us recently. Let's go to that interview right now. Joining us now on Right Side Broadcasting Network is RNC Chairman Joe Gruters. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Let's dive right into some details how the Republican National Committee and the Florida GOP actually intervened to defend Florida's Common Sense SAVE Act.
Well, listen, like a lot of things, this governor in Florida, Ron DeSantis, stepped up as soon as he heard about it. He put this legislation forward. I'm actually in the Florida Senate. I had a chance to vote on it. And it's just common sense legislation that we're trying to pass at the national level, making sure that people have voter ID before they vote, and that, of course, they provide proof of citizenship when they register. Something that, two things that are overwhelmingly popular amongst all demographics, no matter where they are. We put this forward. We passed it. Of course, liberal Democrat groups who are trying to cheat, lie, and steal to win these elections objected. And so we've intervened on their behalf, along with the Republican Party of Florida, who's always been a good ally of the Republican National Committee. And listen, once again, this is one of, I think, 55 lawsuits we have right now across the country where we're bringing the hammer every time these Democrat groups try to cheat. We're answering right back immediately, and we're winning a lot of these cases.
So let's go from the Sunshine State to the Badger State. I understand you guys also stepped in to defend a ballot measure in Wisconsin. Can you elaborate on that case?
Well, listen, it's just like every other case that we have where we're trying to find out ways to not gain an advantage, but to try to make sure that people are playing by the rules. Time and time again, the Democrats have, like I said, they believe the end justifies the means. They're willing to do whatever it takes to stop these or to file the lawsuits or to try to cheat. And we're bringing the hammer everywhere. And it's ballot initiative cases. It's voter ID cases, making sure that we have equal access to poll workers, making sure non-citizens can vote. Just like in New Jersey, where they just admitted they were cheating and said it was a glitch. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It happens over and over again. So we are vigilant and we are aggressive everywhere we go.
It seems to be that case, and shocking to see, not really, with what happened in New Jersey with those 6,000 plus illegal aliens on the voter rolls there. Also, in a story we've been talking about quite a bit here at Right Side, not sure if you know this, sir, but can you give us an inside peek at what the RNC midterm national convention will be like? I know President Trump said this is going to be a truly historic event.
Well, listen, one other thing to talk about that New Jersey case with 6,000 non-citizens being found on the voter rolls and over 400 voted. Like I said, that's just the tip of the iceberg, what we know about. Their governor, Cheryl, said it was a glitch, but she knew it when she called Trump a liar. I mean, shame on her. Overall plan to defy history. It's been over 150 years. Only 4 times has the party in charge been able to hold power. We have a tall task in front of us, but I think that we're going to be able to do it. But it starts by doing things a little bit different. One of those things is this midterm convention. I call it a Trumpapalooza, where we'll be able to highlight all the amazing things this president has done and all the great things the president wants to do. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas, September 9th and 10th. And again, we're going to be able to bring real life stories to people with a messaging plan that will highlight how this president has gone to bat for the average American worker and how people could still achieve the American dream.
It's always good to see everyday Americans on a stage like this, a midterm national convention hosted by the RNC. It's going to be great to see that. And finally, sir, how bad do you want to see the Save America Act become the Save America law?
Listen, we've been fighting for a long time. I know the president's pushing. And let me just make it clear, the Republican National Committee exists to serve the president and the president's administration. He wants it to pass. We're behind him 100%. We've been pushing, prodding, doing everything we can. And it's a couple of holdouts on our side, but every single Democrat is united against this. And listen, this is when leadership matters. We got to step up and do the right thing. Over 80% of Americans agree in these common sense, basic ideas of making sure people have voter ID when they go vote. I mean, it was funny last week, Olive Garden introduced their never-ending pasta bowls, but they're going to require a voter ID. If Olive Garden can do it and get it right, certainly the American people could do it in their respective states when they go and vote. And of course, requiring the proof of citizenship when you vote, to me, is just common sense. And it's common sense to most Americans. No matter if you're a Republican, Independent, or Democrat, everybody agrees that you should do that, with the exception of the elitist Democrats in D.C., because for them, it's all about power and control. And so, yes, we're fighting it every single day. But no matter what happens, if we don't pass it before November, you got to look at what the president's done. He's gone out there and endorsed a lot of these MAGA warriors from coast to coast. And we're going to have the people in place come November to make sure we pass it, that we put this law that we pass the Save America Act and we put it into law to make sure that we can preserve the democracy that we all love.
To your point, there is that momentum. I was just in Georgia the other day for President Trump's Marietta, Georgia speech. And then just the other day in Milford, Michigan, if you ask me, it seems like campaign rally season again. I mean, the crowds are electric at these events. We're seeing that momentum start and kick in even to a higher gear, aren't we, sir?
Well, listen, people love the President of the United States. He's the best showman that's ever lived in politics. Listen, he's delivered 3 times these low propensity voters that we need to win the election. That's why you see him out there on the campaign trail. He's going to continue to barnstorm the country. He's going to go to these toss-up districts. He's going to work it. He knows what's at stake. If the Democrats are somehow able to win, it's going to be investigations. It's going to be obstruction. It's going to be impeachments. It's going to be total chaos, and the presidency will basically be over. That's why we have no option other than to win. That's why we went out and recruited the best candidates. That's why we have the resource advantage, because we're raising a lot more money. We have the messaging with the president. He's going to barnstorm the country. And yes, he is the guy that could deliver us victory in November. There's nobody that could attract these voters, and the energy and the enthusiasm that we see at these rallies early on will just be it's an early sign that good things are in store, and that we're going to be able to unite our base and bring people together for the greater good.
I still can't believe the other night, sir. I wanted to get your reaction on the fact that President Trump does this national primetime address, and some in the mainstream media say, no, we're not airing that speech.
Well, listen, they don't want to air it because they don't want to air the truth. And they know what happened in 2020 was a debacle. And the fact that they cheated and lied and they stole their way to victory. But, you know, a lot of people don't know. I ended up becoming the election integrity chairman right after that happened for the party nationwide. And it was to make sure what happened in 2020 never happens again. And that's what the president wants. He wants to make sure that we have safe and secure elections that are fair. One citizen for one vote. It's not rocket science. It's common sense. But that's what we face. We face common sense in this election versus crazy. Common sense versus communism. We're in the battle for our lives, and we're going against people who are willing to do anything to hold on to that power and control. We can overcome it, but it's only if people come together and join their local parties and join the movement that this president has built. We have a lot of work to do if we're going to save this country, and I expect that the president, and I know he's up for it, but I expect him to travel the country and do everything humanly possible to make sure we can win these seats.
That's exactly what we're seeing here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you so much, sir, the RNC Chairman Joe Gruters, for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Great to catch up with the chairman of the RNC. And as you guys know, we've been talking about the RNC midterm national convention, September 9th and 10th in Dallas, Texas. Looking forward to that coverage as well. And speaking of coverage, coming up on Friday, the president will have that 13th cabinet meeting of his second administration at Camp David, but it's only Wednesday. So we still have some coverage here today. Of course, we'll see the president in just a little bit with the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. Meantime, let's go to Kalshi.com. 3 ways to get to Kalshi, of course: the app, the website, and the QR code. So, of course, the Kalshi app, Kalshi.com/RSBN, or the QR code. A number of political trending topics on there that people are betting, trading, or just checking out the polls. You can do one of 3 or all of them, I guess. Great stuff there, especially when it comes to very specific questions like, will the Save America Act pass? Or when will the Strait of Hormuz open? Or those kind of things. So you can check it out. And it's not only politics, it's sports, it's faith, it's weather, it's all sorts of stuff you can check out there. Let's go from Kalshi and let's go to Cove Pier. You know, most of us know there's chlorine in our tap water. We sometimes can smell it, we shrug, and then we drink it anyway, because we've been told it's what keeps our water safe. But what they don't tell you is what chlorine becomes after it's added to your water. And that's why it's so important to filter your water through Cove Pier. You know, chlorine itself isn't even the biggest problem, because we're told chlorine levels in your water are regulated, but what's not regulated is the chemicals that form when chlorine reacts with naturally occurring organic matter from rivers, soil, and plant matter. So when chlorine interacts with those particles, we're told it creates chemical byproducts called THMs. The government itself calls THMs probable human carcinogens. They've been linked to disruption of your gut and also linked to cancer. So those pitcher filters you get at the store won't fix this. They improve the taste of chlorine by masking it, but THMs require something far more powerful, and that's exactly what Cove Pure is. They have this Clearwave reverse osmosis technology certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. It's not just chlorine or THMs, it's fluoride, PFAs, pharmaceuticals. If it isn't water, Cove Pure removes it. And this thing doesn't just, it doesn't take up much room at all. You can see it on screen there. It's just simply put it on the counter, plug it in. You don't need someone in to call someone in to install it. The best part about Cove Pure is it lets you choose whatever temperature you want. No more waiting for the kettle to boil to make a cup of tea or coffee. You just tap a button and you get hot, cold, or warm water instantly. The feedback on Cove Pure from our viewers has been incredible, and people have told us that they can literally taste the difference. Clean water is one of the best investments you can make for you and your family's health. Right now, they're giving all of our viewers $250 off if you use the link covepure.com/RSBN. Again, drink pure, live pure, Cove Pure. Great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And it's always better to taste healthy, good water than the tap water that's out there for those options. All right, so it is 2:57. We're approaching the top of the hour. Let's go now to Mark Lucas, the founder for Veteran Action. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side.
Well, thank you for having me on. And I love Right Side Broadcast. I see you guys all the time here in Iowa during the presidential elections.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, it's been awesome to, during the campaign season, tour around that state and then to New Hampshire and on. But right out of the gate, we know it's you guys first when it comes to the political presidential cycles. And that leads me to a real quick question, kind of off topic. Your thoughts about this midterm national convention that'll happen in September, really to keep the momentum going into November for the midterms.
I think it's a great idea, and it just shows how important this midterm election is for President Trump's policy agenda. I've been pushing for veteran reform through Congress to really help expand President Trump's veteran reform agenda. And by him having this convention down in Dallas, it kind of brings to light all the things that not only do we need to accomplish before the midterm, but to set this long-term policy strategy post-midterm election, which I think is really critical.
Definitely. We've been watching the Veterans Affairs Secretary, Doug Collins, as he travels from coast to coast. We see these videos posted all over the place, and we play them here on Right Side. What's your assessment so far with under the Trump administration versus really any other administration when it comes to veterans?
I think the VA Secretary, Doug Collins, has really been underwhelming in this second Trump administration. I was able to work with President Trump in his first administration and see him pass two of the most historic reforms at the VA. He was able to pass the VA Accountability Act and also the VA Mission Act, which was really near and dear to President Trump's heart. He agrees with me that if you serve your country in uniform, you should be able to have choice in your health care. If you like your VA doctor, you should be able to stay there. But if you're not able to be seen in a timely manner, you should be able to go sometimes literally across the street to a private healthcare facility. So as we were entering Trump's second term, a lot of his veterans thought that we were going to have a lot more VA reform. And unfortunately, as was reported in Politico yesterday, many people at the White House and on Capitol Hill have blamed Doug Collins for not passing more VA reform.
So what would you say right now if the White House or Doug Collins is watching?
I'd say we need to pass the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. This is supported by President Trump. The White House has issued statements in support of this legislation. All that Doug Collins has to do is literally issue a tweet or a short statement saying that he supports this bill. There are a lot of vulnerable House Republicans right now on Capitol Hill that are just looking for more direction from the VA. And if we could get this bill should have been passed 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I think it's really simple. Doug Collins needs to support President Trump's agenda. And if he wants to look at a warning sign for President Trump's first term, VA Secretary David Shulkin was slow walking President Trump's veteran agenda, and he was fired.
We'll see what happens. We'll monitor that story. And speaking of stories, I don't even want to call him Dr. Anthony Fauci. I'll just call him an evil, not even genius. He doesn't even deserve anything positive, in my opinion. Your thoughts about his 111 times that he plead the fifth today?
I thought it felt like some preliminary justice. He was a guy that couldn't stop getting in front of a camera, talking to the press, talking about how he was supporting the science. And for me, as a military service member during that time when he was invoking this COVID-19 policy, I refused the vaccine. And we lost thousands of soldiers, service members, because of that unlawful COVID-19 mandate. And it was because of Dr. Fauci. So a lot of us service members and veterans were very pleased to see him squirming in that chair in front of Senator Rand Paul, invoking the Fifth Amendment. And I ultimately believe that he needs to spend life in prison. He cost us thousands of lives, at least, also trillions of dollars of losses in our economy. I'm a husband and a father. My kids had to endure through all that COVID-19 madness. Justice needs to be served. And it was good to see Dr. Fauci under the bright lights squirming in front of Senator Rand Paul.
100%, and we'll get back to some of those clips as we stand by for the president meeting with the Secretary of Transportation in just a second. When you look at all of those atrocities, the plandemic under Fauci, 111 times he just had to lie to the American people today. I just still can't believe what we just saw unfold.
And I'm thankful that we have in our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, a person that really believes in serving the warfighter. He was a junior officer. He never became a colonel or a GO. He wrote a book called The War on Warriors, and that unlawful COVID-19 mandate was absolutely a war on service members like me that proudly served in Afghanistan. I volunteered to go to South Korea. I was on the fast track to be promoted to battalion command. I was the type of officer you think you'd want to keep in the service, but President Joe Biden, Secretary of Defense at the time, Lloyd Austin, they wanted to remove people like us for not bending the knee. And, we fought the global war on terror. And unfortunately, we had tyranny knocking on our front door with Dr. Fauci. And many of us left the service because of that and some other reasons.
Isn't it great that Secretary Pete Hegseth uncuffed the United States Armed Forces, the military? No more wokeism, reverse the COVID vaccine mandate and all of that. That's what you're referring to, I assume.
Absolutely. Pete Hegseth and I served together in the National Guard. He was in the Minnesota Guard. I served in the Iowa Guard. We're both a part of the famous 34th Infantry Division. Our motto was attack, attack, attack. And Pete Hegseth took that same type of mentality to the Pentagon. We've seen a resurgence in retention and in recruiting. Morale's never been at this all-time high like we've ever seen before. And a lot of it's because he comes from our background, a junior officer background who really focus on the important things. The people who serve in uniform, who pick up that weapon system, who are willing to fight for this country. He stands for us.
And finally, sir, thanks again for joining us. And those of you joining us live right now, this is Mark Lucas, the founder for Veteran Action. Sir, your thoughts as we are less than 100 days from the midterm election. We have some primary elections coming up, of course, the Save America Act, the momentum that needs to happen through the month of August, not to pick it back up in September, right?
We need to pass the Save America Act. We need mass deportations. But we also have to pass the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. This bill is very popular. It contains the Veterans Access Act, which I've pulled with Rasmussen. 75% of military voters are more likely to vote for somebody who supported the Access Act. This is incredibly popular, but most importantly, it will provide veterans better access and choice in their health care.
Mark Lucas, the founder of Veteran Action, thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Definitely, Mark. It'll be great to have Mark Lucas back on sometime in the near future. Great patriot right there. We're also going to go to the White House. We're going to see here on the programming monitor, of course, the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, and President Donald J. Trump from the Oval Office. So as soon as we see that start, we're going to take you directly to that live video. Now, there's a lot of other material, content that we didn't get to. We had a lot of great interviews today. So it looks like what we'll do is after the event with the president, we'll play some of those videos, talk about some of our sponsors here on the network. Again, thanks for taking the time to watch with us here on Right Side this next event from the White House. And then again, in just about 48 hours from now, we'll be going to Camp David, of course, in Maryland. We'll be seeing the president there on Friday for that 13th meeting. Let's go to President Trump.
Exciting to me as a builder, somebody that builds lots of big, nice projects before I got here. and we're doing some of the best in the world right now. This is all about the Dulles Airport remodeling. It's considered one of the worst airports anywhere in the world. We're going to make it maybe the best with some hard work and some good thought process. But thank you for being here as we unveil exciting plans for a major and long overdue renovation and reconstruction of Washington's really horribly thought of Dulles International Airport. I want to thank Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. He's fantastic. He's doing a great job, including having to do with the safety of airlines and getting in with the control towers and all new equipment that we'll be ordering in the not too distant future. So that we'll go from, again, one of the worst countries in the world for that, and we'll end up being one of the best countries in the world. That's automation, having to do with landings, takeoffs, and safety. But for his leadership at this important project, and that's the Dulles project, thanks as well to the CEO of United Airlines, Scott Kirby. Thank you, Scott. CEO of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, Jack Potter. Thank you, Jack. And we've developed a great relationship with them. We're going to make this something special. As well as a member of the Airports Authority Board of Directors, Trent Morse. Thank you, Trent. Thank you very much. Dulles Airport is the primary international gateway to our nation's capital, which is now one of the safest cities in the country. It's one of the hottest cities in the country. We are the hottest country in the world. But our nation's capital has made tremendous improvements in the last year and a half since we got here. Crime is down by 84%. We've removed almost 8,000 career-hardened criminals. And amazing statistic, 2% of the people cause 91% of the crime. And we can handle that really easily. So they've done, I just want to thank our great National Guard and the Metropolitan Police and others that worked with us. But the job in Washington, everyone's talking about. I can also say, if you look at Memphis, Tennessee, where crime was rampant, and it's down now 71%, and it'll go down still further. And Louisiana, New Orleans, the governor called, he said, we need help. And we gave him help, and the crime is down 72%. And they just finished Mardi Gras, and they said it was the safest Mardi Gras on record. So we have a modernization of Dulles that's sorely needed. Last year's J.D. Power ranked Dulles 23 out of 27. That's a very bad ranking. Large airports nationwide, so it ranks at the bottom of the list, just about the bottom of the list. After an extensive review of more than 30 proposals with the top architects anywhere in the world, and I was involved with Sean and with a lot of other people actually, but Scott was very much involved, I can tell you. But we are announcing plans to add more than 5 million square feet of new or renovated space. We'll replace the current C and D concourses, which are basic disasters, all the while preserving the iconic original terminal. That is one of the great architects of the world did the original terminal, and it was very, very important that it be left. That's one of the reasons. It was both an asset and a liability. The liability is that nobody wanted to build anything near it, and people had to walk crazy distances, and it's no good, not acceptable. So we've addressed it all, and we have a plan that's going to be phenomenal. But we're going to replace the C&D concourses and preserve the iconic original terminal that first made the airport an architectural landmark. So it's going to be something you can sort of see a little example of it right here. That's your front. On the other side of the street, we're building a massive 9-story, 8-story, 10-story, we're not sure yet, but we're building a parking garage that will be right next to the terminal. You'll walk right across the street, and you'll have a glass bridge, a number of glass bridges that will go right into the terminal. Right now, you have to walk so far. You have to walk blocks and blocks to get to the terminal. And we have an empty site right directly across the street that nobody wanted to tinker with, which was crazy. So we're going to have a magnificent garage. What would you say, Sean? How many cars?
32,000 parking spaces.
32,000. It'll be actually the largest garage in the world. 32,000 is big. Mostly above ground. We don't like down. People don't like going down underneath. Mostly above ground. It'll be beautiful. But a central walking tunnel and a new air train connections will provide travelers with easy options. Really, It's an impossible airport. You get off a bus, you go into a train, you get from a train, you get onto another bus. It's a worse airport. This plan also includes expanded options for parking, modern check-in areas, more efficient security screenings, hotels, et cetera, We have a beautiful hotel right on the property, but further away so that we can give the good location, frankly, the best location to parking. So people literally will be able to park their car and walk 15 yards and they'll be in the terminal. In addition, many of the new restaurants and shops will be added, including plans for one of the largest United Polaris lounges anywhere in the world. It'll be a beautiful level of luxury. This transformation is another step in our ongoing efforts to make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful again. The safety aspects, both in terms of the airlines and in terms of crime, are unparalleled for what we're doing. For years, the United States has watched other major cities around the globe welcome travelers with grand and modern airports, yet the last major airport built in the United States was Denver in 1995, and it hasn't gotten very great reviews. That's more than 30 years ago, so we're doing something with Dulles that's going to make it, I think, the top, maybe the top anywhere in the world. And by the way, Palm Beach is going to be one of the top too. Palm Beach is going to be incredible what the plans are. The people, Joe, and all the people working in Palm Beach that have done such an incredible job. That's going to be an unbelievable airport very shortly. So it's time to ensure that the United States has the greatest airports anywhere in the world, and we're starting right here with the capital city. And you can see just before Sean goes up, if you take a look, this is only showing the terminal in one rung, but you have numerous of them. You have here, 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 and you have a spine coming. Here's your main entrance. You have a spine coming right through the building into these massive ports. Now, the planes won't have to be bothered because we drop down a little bit and our walkway is underneath. We have walking systems that go very quickly, or you can walk because it's very close. But this is it. So you enter here. You have a parking garage, which will be built right here. This whole thing is parking garage. Probably 32,000 cars. That'll be a world record, and very convenient. And then you'll have glass tunnels that go into the airport right from here. So you'll be one story above. This road stays, beautified and stays. We keep this. This is your landmark. This is all new. This is your first tunnel, and then you drop down from there on. And so that when you have the planes, we'll be able to go right across without having to go back, make turns or anything else. It's going to be amazing. It'll be one of the largest airports anywhere in the world, and I think it'll be actually one of the most efficient and the best. So I'd like to ask Secretary Duffy to say a few words, and then Jack Potter, and I'd like to welcome a very great gentleman to our midst, Jensen Huang, who's here someplace, and he's, if we can do with an airport like he does with chips, it'll be the greatest airport anywhere in the world. He looks at this problem as being a very simple problem to solve because his chips are a little bit more complicated. But it's important that he's able to travel nicely along with everybody else. And right now, this is not a very good airport. We're going to make it a great airport. Sean, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So to your point, the President has worked incredibly hard to make D.C. safe and beautiful. I think this is the cherry on the top, Mr. President. This is the gateway to the world from our nation's capital. And any of you who've traveled through Dulles, it is dark, it is dated, a little dank maybe. It's not a great airport. And so we had multiple architects come in and present to the President. And we are blessed that not only does he give his time to really important matters, but he gave his building skill to take the best of all the designs and come up with this concept. So just if I could quickly point out, we keep the Saarinen building, so that's going to be the foyer, a whole new head house. We are going to get rid of the people movers, Mr. President. So if you don't know what these are like elevated buses. It's kind of like, it looks like it's from Star Wars, if you will. And they're slow and people are angry about them. We are going to get rid of those. We are going to have a horseshoe train system throughout the airport. And as you mentioned, right down the spine of the airport is going to be a walkway. So easy access to all of your gates, fast movement. And what I like the President, he was like, listen, we have to have great parking. So when you pull up to the airport, you have easy access to the concourses, to the terminal. And so I think this is one of the best designs, Mr. President, probably because you actually did it, that you'll see in the country as a whole. We've had this is bipartisan, Mr. President. A lot of people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you hate the way Dulles operates. So everyone's come together, and we're building for America and building for the future. And it's your vision that made this happen. So thank you for doing this. And it's going to be, I think, it's going to be the premier airport in our country when you're done with it.
Well, thus far, what John said about bipartisan really is bipartisan. And I don't know if that's because it's the right thing to do, which it is, but it's also that whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you don't want to go and be subjected to this airport, because this airport is it's a terrible place to be, and it's going to be, I believe it'll be rated within a few years, it'll be rated the best airport in the country. So it's going to be so efficient. Right now it's totally inefficient. Between the trams and the Star Wars thing that they call it, the Star Wars, and elevated buses, and nobody knows what's going on. It's a real mess. And as you know, United is subjected to it. It doesn't help United very much. He's been very much involved with what we've done, and other airlines too. And I have to say that we've had over 30 architects and 30 different designs, and we did a little cherry picking, and we spoke to a lot of people about it, and we've come up with a plan that's efficient and really beautiful, and I think it's going to give you one of the most beautiful, keeping the Saarinen. So Saarinen was one of the great architects of the world, and when he built this 30 years ago, I guess, or about that, this was considered one of the eighth wonder of the world. This was considered the greatest terminal anywhere in the country, and it is. It needs some work, it needs some fix-up, but it'll be architecturally amazing, the rounded glass and the whole thing, massive sheets of glass. Cost was no object, unfortunately or fortunately, and we're going to be using that, and it's going to be fixed. We're using it again as the primary entrance, and almost that's about it, because essentially this is a brand new airport, and yet we're going to be able to work it well enough that it'll work at least as efficiently as it works right now. And in the end, you're going to end up with, I think, maybe the best airport and one of the biggest airports anywhere in the world. And it's going to be a great thing for Washington, D.C. So could I ask Jack to say a few words, please?
Yes.
Jack?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your inspiration here and challenge. You challenged all of us to step into the issues that you just described. We're very proud of the process that we've gone through. We're very happy that United Airlines, the Airports Authority, and the other airlines have agreed to step up and fund this thing. So this is not requiring federal dollars. This is going to be airport-generated dollars, airline contributions, which is phenomenal. It means that we're off to a fast start here. We're engaging with the Saarinen family to make sure that they stay intimately involved with this. All the aspects that were just described, I think, will make this a world-class airport. And you challenged us to do this. We're building off of growth, though. I have to tell you, our airport was the fastest growing airport in 24 and 25 of any large airport in the country. So we're going to continue to build on the momentum that we have, and we're excited about taking on this challenge, and it will be a challenge to construct this. And our goal is to construct it and make sure that the traveling public there'll be minimal impact to them as they transit through our airport. So again, Mr. President, thank you for your inspiration, and we look forward to you to continue to participate in this in the coming years, because we're going to bring designs to you and other things. So we very much look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. Great job, Tim. Scott, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary and Jack and everyone. We're really, United, we're really excited to have this project get off the ground. The terminal that's out there today was built 45 years ago and was meant to be temporary. And so I've spent my whole career at United Airlines waiting for this day, and all the people of United Airlines have spent even longer waiting for the day that we could have really the best airport in the world. And this design is one that works great for the airline. The President talked about how it works great for on the outside for the airline, but it's going to be a beautiful airport inside for customers. And it's something that all of us at United, but really all Americans, will be able to be proud of, having an airport when people come into the Capitol that really represents what the United States of America stands for. So I'm proud of it as a CEO of United, but proud of it as an American as well. That's right.
It's going to be a great one. Thank you. And thank you for your help. And Trent, would you like to say something?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership on this. On behalf of the MWA board, This is something that everyone's tried to do for decades, and no one's been able to get it done. And without the president's leadership on it, we'd be back in square one. So thank you for your leadership on this project. Thank you to United and the Department of Transportation for moving this along as quickly as possible.
One of the things that is interesting, they were going to build this over a 60-year period. They were going to start with a little section here, a little section there, and that wouldn't have worked. It wasn't a design like this, but it wouldn't have worked. So we're doing it all at one time. It'll all be completed, and it'll be beautiful, and it'll be something very special. I'd like to say something.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really want to thank the Airport Authority and United Airlines for your partnership, the board of the Airport Authority. Your partnership is critical to make this happen. I know you had a plan to improve the airport, but as the President said, it was a long-term plan. We thought it was too modest, too slow, too modest. And
60 years isn't too long.
Decades. But with the President's attention and focus on this, it's accelerated, it's expanded, and we're actually going to realize the vision, and a much greater vision now. So it's a very exciting day for Washington, for the whole nation.
Well, these people have all been fantastic, and they want to see it get done and get done properly, and it should be done as one airport, not being built in chunks, which would have been, frankly, a catastrophe, I think. So thank you very much. You have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. President. Very quickly on this issue, did you just say 2 years? It would take 2 years to finish this?
We think we can get it started fairly quickly. It's largely financed. And we need some approvals from Congress probably, but generally speaking, it's been very bipartisan.
And then on the attack, the drone attack on the LNG tanker off of Egypt, what can you tell us about that? And is there any indication it's Iran-related? Does it represent a wide?
I'll give you a report. I've been briefed. It's a little more of the same, but it's going to be straightening out. It's going to be straightening out. In the meantime, we're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming. They're asking us not to do it, but they tried shooting it last night. So we had 5 rocket shots going 8,500 miles an hour, and all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground. But they nevertheless took a shot, so it's our turn. And we'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point, but we're going to hit them very hard.
Mr. President, first on this, is this expected to affect any incoming or outgoing flights?
No, we think we can do it without a lot of disruption, very little.
And then
it might even be better.
On Leader Thune, what's your reaction to him saying that there's no evident path to success on killing the filibuster or passing the Safe America Act?
Well, that's too bad for him. I mean, that's too bad for him and too bad for the Republican Party.
Do you believe that?
He's got the votes. He should get it done. He should be able to get it done.
Mr. President, Dr. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times today.
Yes, sir.
Rand Paul said he's going to hold a vote on holding him in contempt of Congress. Do you think Dr. Fauci should face repercussions for this?
Well, I watched the whole thing today, but more importantly, I was a part of the whole Fauci. I inherited Fauci. He was here from the 1980s, so I had him for a period of time. And I disagreed with him on a lot. I would have had to close down the whole country if I listened to him. I went the Federalist way, which is basically to let the governors decide. And generally speaking, the Republican governors did very well. The Democrat governors did not very well. But Fauci wanted to have nobody wearing masks, if you remember, and then everybody had to wear 5 masks, as many masks as you could get. I mean, he made a lot of mistakes. And he wasn't a big factor for me. He was a very big factor for Biden. And if you remember, even though we were sort of prime time in terms of that whole disaster of COVID, far people died, fewer in the Trump administration than in the Biden administration. We ran it well. Operation Warp Speed was talked about as being one of the great success stories anywhere in the world, actually. And we did a good job. But many more people died under Biden than died in the Trump administration from COVID. COVID was a disaster, but Fauci did not help.
Do you think that the DOJ should reopen the investigation into the auto pen, specifically pertaining to Fauci?
Well, the only thing you can really think about is the auto pen, because the most powerful thing a president has, they say, is the power of pardon. So he was pardoned by Biden. And I respect that. I know how powerful it is. It's a very powerful, they say it's literally the most powerful thing a president has. Now, whether or not I sign my things directly, always, almost everything I signed directly. You're witness to many of them. He signed very few. The only thing I know that he signed was Hunter Biden's pardon, but I'm not sure that he signed, he probably didn't sign this one. So I can't tell you what the law is. I've heard that you have to have a lot of proof. You need to have letters. You need to have all sorts of things that the person operating the auto pen has to know exactly what it's all about. He didn't know what it was about because I saw him testify. So maybe there's something on the auto pen. Other than that, the power of pardon is very powerful.
One question briefly on the.
Thank you. Beth Turner, GB News. We've just heard you talking about another example of American excellence. That's really what this is a project where you're striving to be the best in the world. As a Brit, that's really striking to me. You've had a couple of weeks to get to know our new Prime Minister. Have you spoken to him much? And do you think he is the man to lead us to excellence again?
Well, he did say one very good thing. He said he's going to open up North Sea oil. If he does that, you're going to be a wealthy country. If he does it reasonably. I was telling Prime Minister Starmer, open up the North Sea. Open it up. You'll be okay. Open it up. They have two problems. They have a huge immigration problem. People coming from all over the world and just camping out in your country. And we've taken a very tough stand. In fact, for 14 months, nobody has come into our country. Zero, which is almost hard to believe, but that's what the report says. Our borders become very strong, and your border is very weak. He's got that problem, and he's got energy problem. He's got windmills all over the place, and anytime you see windmills, you see a failing country, and they're made in China, not used by China, but they're made in China. And you have a thing called the North Sea, and you buy a lot of your energy, as you know, from the North Sea. You buy from Norway. And Norway gets it from the North Sea. They get their oil from the North Sea. And Norway's got trillions of dollars in the bank, trillions. It sells its oil from the North Sea. And Scotland has a better part of the North Sea. And you have 500, 600, 700 years. You have areas of the North Sea that haven't even been explored yet. You have one of the most valuable oil finds anywhere in the world. And if the United Kingdom would use it, they'd be a wealthy country again. And I tell you what, I could not get Starmer to use it. It was incredible. Every oil company that I meet, and these are all big giants, every person that I know in the oil business said, please, could you open up the North Sea? Could you get them to open it? They're dying to do it. And if you open up the North Sea to the oil companies, Scotland, Ireland, the UK as a whole, but it's right in Aberdeen, Scotland. It's right in Aberdeen. And that would be one of the most vibrant. You know, it used to be called the oil capital of Europe. Aberdeen was the capital of Europe. And now it's, they don't drill oil. And nobody can understand why. You have it's among the finest oil, it's the best oil anywhere on the planet. And it's unbelievable plenty. You don't have to pay Norway triple what it costs them to take out. You have your own oil and gas. If you use the North Sea, the UK will be a really rich country. I cannot get the point across. The new gentleman, when I spoke to him, he said he's going to open up the North Sea. Let's see if that happens.
The Fed today voted to keep interest rates unchanged. Are you surprised by that? Are you disappointed in any way with Kevin Warsh and not being able to corral Fed members?
Yeah, Kevin's got a board. He's fantastic. He's a brilliant guy, smart. I know he'd love to see lower interest rates, but he's got a board, and it's a political board, and they want to keep rates up. But we fight through rates. We have the strongest investment ever made in a country, of any country. It was China about 13, 14 years ago. We have far greater, 19.2, even Jensen would say that's a lot. 19, and Jensen's spending a tremendous amount of money by hundreds of billions of dollars. He happens to be in the room. He's spending more than United, actually. Yes. Well, he's spending $10 billion. Jensen's spending hundreds of billions, right? I don't know. That's not a bad business again. But no, we have 19.2 trillion. It's the biggest number ever spent in any country by far. And that's over a period of 1 year. As an example, as you know, the Biden administration for 4 years did much less than 1 trillion. We're doing 19.2 trillion in 1 year. So we have things that are happening in our country, the likes of which nobody's ever seen. Plants and factories are moving in. Toyota just announced they're building one of the largest car plants anywhere in the world and truck plants anywhere in the world. We are building more automobile plants now than at any time in the history of our country.
Mr. President, on Dulles in particular, this is just one of several projects that you have underway in the DMV. Why would you say that you're so focused on transforming the Washington region right now?
Well, this is an important one. You know, this is travel. So in terms of the importance, I think the Arc is going to be incredible. I think the protected ballroom and military center that we're building at the White House is going to be unbelievable. It's very important. But, you know, this is the airport. This is sort of the lifeblood of a city or a capital, certainly a capital. And this will go from one of the worst, just like Washington. Washington was one of the worst places in this country, and now it's one of the best. You couldn't get into a restaurant because all the restaurants were closing or closed. They were afraid to have it open. Now you can't, if you're a restaurateur, you can't even find space to have a restaurant. The restaurants are booming. So, you know, it's a great thrill. And by the way, if you look, Washington is clean, it's safe, people walk to work. Every day a young man or a young woman comes up and says, "Thank you, sir." I know exactly what he's talking about. They couldn't wait. They were afraid to walk to work. Now they literally walk to the White House. Washington is now a beautiful and clean. We got rid of the graffiti. 78 monuments and different things have been cleaned. They were strewn with graffiti. We had 28 fountains that not one of them worked. For years, for decades, they haven't worked. They're all up in service, and nobody's seen anything like it. We have it clean. We're changing all the grass in all the parks. That's going to be changed very shortly. The parks are, because the grass is very, you know, grass is like human beings. Grass has a life also. And we're changing, we're raking, cleaning, and changing all of the parks. We don't have people, we don't have the tents anymore. We don't have all the barbed wire up. We don't have the wire up. Washington's become a beautiful city. It's become a hot city. But, you know, even more importantly, the United States right now is the hottest country anywhere in the world.
Mr. President, just a point of clarity on the airport. No federal funding will be required. What did you mean when you said Congress may need to approve?
So it's going to be bonded for $22.5 billion. United is going to partake in part of the payment, but the airlines who participate in the project are going to pay for it. If I can just make one point of clarification.
Yeah, please.
We have some permitting we have to do, but we think in the spring, this is both Concourse A. We think we can start construction in the spring of next year. So we're trying to move at the speed of President Trump. It's never fast enough, but we're going as quickly as possible so we can give a deliverable to the American people.
And the other thing Sean's doing, which I think is so important, maybe more important, I don't know if it can be more important than this, but he's working on air traffic control. We have an obsolete system. It's 50 years old. You saw the helicopter crash a year ago into a plane. That was a disaster, and things like that would never happen. Bells would have gone off in 4 or 5 minutes before it happened. You would have heard the bells and whistles would have gone off, and a thing like that couldn't have happened if you had proper air control. So what's happened is we're working very hard on getting the finest in the country now in the world. We've examined the systems of almost every good country in terms of air traffic control all over the world, and we have the best people working on it in the world. And it'll make, I mean, so often you'll see somebody even bunking into each other at an airport, but where planes come too close, where planes, in the case of the helicopter the helicopter hits the plane, we are working on air traffic control to redo the entire system, including the new towers, because the towers are obsolete. You know, you don't think of it, you see a tower and it looks fine. You go into those towers, they're literally falling down. So we're talking about new towers and all new air traffic control, which will give us the safest anywhere in the world.
Mr. President,
Why do you think Dr. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment so many times today when he has the pardon? And what was stopping him from just giving an honest testimony this morning?
Well, look, I've never been a big fan of Fauci. Why he did that was very simple. His lawyer told him to. You know, I don't know if he would have been better off not doing it. There were a lot of questions that I guess he could have answered, and some maybe he didn't feel comfortable in answering, but his lawyer told him to do that.
Mr. President, on Iran?
Prime Minister Andy Burnham hasn't mentioned publicly migration at all since he's gone into number 10. Did you discuss it with him?
I did, briefly. He's going to have to mention it because it's killing your country.
Mr. President.
Killing you.
He won't talk to GB News.
He's killing your country.
He won't talk to us.
And not him. I mean, we'll have to see. I know Starmer did very little about it. And they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Africa. They're coming from South America. They're coming from different parts of Asia. And they're invading Europe. I mean, they're invading Europe. It's an invasion. And the UK is a prime suspect.
Mr. President, on Todd Blanche, Senator John Cornyn of Texas has been hesitant to back the confirmation. Seems to be some sort of deal that he's talking about. What is your reaction to his hesitancy?
Well, all I can say is Todd Blanche is outstanding. And I thought it was pretty routine because he's so good. You just wouldn't find a better person. So I don't know, maybe John Cornyn's upset with me because I didn't endorse him. I don't know what it is, but I haven't heard that there's a problem. I heard he's going through quite nicely.
And do you think Senate Majority Leader John Thune, after the comments you heard regarding Save America and some other stuff, do you think he's still the man for the job?
Well, we're going to find out, and I'll let you know.
Mr. President, it was a beautiful service yesterday for Senator
Right.
Graham, beautiful eulogy that you delivered. As far as Senator Darlene Graham is concerned, based upon your conversations, is she going to focus primarily on foreign affairs like her brother, or will she focus more on domestic issues?
I think domestic, really. I've spoken to her a lot, and she's much more focused on domestic, including costs and pricing.
And
I think she'll be outstanding.
Jay Clayton, he was just confirmed by the Senate.
Yeah, he's great.
Would you like to see him continue with Bill Pulte's work at exposing election
Oh yeah,
interference
sure.
in
I'm sure he will.
2020?
Bill did a great job, and Jay has just been confirmed. And he's outstanding. He was the head of Sullivan and Cromwell for many years, and he's very outstanding. And I think he's going to do a fantastic job. And Bill was great. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, in light of advanced ChatGPT AI models escaping their lab and conducting cyber attacks, are you considering stronger controls on AI, and would you consider negotiating?
Well, we're looking at AI. We're looking at controls. We're also making sure that we lead. So we're leading China in AI by a lot. China has virtually no controls. It's freewheeling a little bit. So we have to be careful in both ways. We don't want to restrict them where all of a sudden we come in second to China. Whoever wins with AI is going to win. That's how big it is. So it's bigger than the internet ever was. It's bigger than anything ever was. So I don't want to restrict. I know many of these people. I don't want to restrict them from doing great work. Yeah, please.
Under what scenario do you see Iran attacking U.S. installations and personnel overseas and you withdrawing?
I don't see that. No, we're not. No, we're gonna hit them very hard. I mean, I can actually say that because there's very little they can do about it. It was a different group than we're dealing with. They've already apologized, but we got to smack them a little bit.
Mr. President, are you going to hit back when they strike?
Will I always hit back?
Yes.
Pretty much. Yes.
Mr. President, just a point of clarity on that, sir. Is that in response to the attempted ballistic missile strike on Jordan last night? When you say it's our turn to hit back.
Yeah, I think more so that, because there was another smaller event. But no, they sent 8,000-mile-an-hour missiles at us. And fortunately, we had our people operating the greatest equipment in the world, namely the Patriot system. Think of it, 5 missiles going 8,600 miles an hour, big ones, coming right at us, and all 5 were shot down. How about that, right? Pretty good. Nobody else could do that but us, yeah.
How was your meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky yesterday?
It was good.
Do you see a time scale for getting
No,
that?
it was good. Look, he's out doing his thing. I'd like him to end the war. So it's very simple. I get along with both. I get along with President Putin. I get along with President Zelensky. And like I told him, I want to end the war, get the war ended. Thousands of people, 25,000 people died last month. That's standard. And it's not acceptable. So I said, just end the war.
Mr. President, on the war, do you want the House to come back before August 31st to act on the Russia and Iran sanctions bill after it
Well,
clears
if
the
it's
Senate?
necessary. I mean, it shouldn't be necessary, to be honest. But if it's necessary, I'd like to. Are you talking about the Lindsey Graham?
Yeah.
So I'd like them to add Iran as tariffs, not just as sanctions. I think it's important. That's what Lindsey wanted, because I heard that they have tariffs on Russia, but not on those 5 countries having to do with Iran. I'd like to see tariffs on Iran. It would make it much stronger. So perhaps you're very good at this. You can maybe tell them. I think they should put in for Russia, but I think they should put in for Iran. And that's really what Lindsay wanted. Yep.
And on Iran, one more, sir, sorry.
And good job at the dinner the other night.
Thank you.
Did a great job.
Thank you, I appreciate that. President Xi told you that China would not give or sell Iran any weapons. And there's a new report that Iran's about to get 400 rocket launchers from China going through Pakistan to Iran.
Well, that would be surprising. I mean, things like that happen, but that would be surprising. He told me very strongly he wouldn't partake. And he knows I'd be quite disappointed. Yeah, please.
Mr. President,
And he's coming here, I think, on September 24th.
two questions. First, we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of 9/11, and a good number of 9/11 families have called on New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani to not attend a number of these memorial services. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they're having a hard time with Mamdani. The people having to do with anybody having to do with 9/11 right now, on the victim side, and there are a lot of them, they're very unhappy with what's going on in New York, and they're very unhappy with the mayor. I understand that. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Republicans are underway negotiating the budget. Would you sign a CR without the Save America Act protection? That's something you want to see?
I'll have to look at it, but they should get to Save America. How simple can it be? Voter identification, proof of citizenship. I mean, now you have to understand the Democrats, not one Democrat will sign because they want to cheat. There's no way they can get elected if they don't, if that happens. But we should have unanimous Republican support. And if we don't, people should look at those Republicans. But think of it. Who would not sign voter identification with photo? And who would not sign proof of citizenship? Only people that want to cheat. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Bev.
Go this way as well.
Hey, thank you guys. You can head out this door right there.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys. You can head out this door right there. Thank you. Thanks, Ken.
All right, President Trump right there with the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, talking about Washington Dulles International Airport. We're going to show you those renderings in just a second. We have a number of items to get to as we continue our live coverage here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy first. Specifically, you've been probably hearing about these news headlines about Cyclospora, this parasite that's been making headlines lately. Health officials are investigating this growing outbreak that has now been reported in more than half of our states, 31 states in all. The parasite can cause severe diarrhea, stomach cramps, nausea, fatigue. It's also a good reminder that unexpected illnesses can happen, which is why it's important to have a pharmacy you can count on for easy access to essential medications, also to physicians that can provide a prescription when you need it. That's where All Family Pharmacy comes in. They've made healthcare simple. You can order medications on their website and get the prescription from their doctors if needed. Then your medications are shipped directly to your door. They offer antibiotics like Bactrim, which is commonly recommended for this infection, along with anti-parasitic medications, everyday maintenance medications, allergy meds, and also hundreds of other prescriptions. All you have to do is visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Get that 10% off. Use the RSBN 10 promo code. 717 is the number there, 561-717-6794. Great American independent pharmacy, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Let's also go to Birch Gold Group. We wouldn't be celebrating Freedom 250, America 250, USA 250 if it wasn't for a strong foundation set by our framers. You know, Alexander Hamilton built America's financial foundation on the principle of sound, stable money, a principle later embodied by the gold standard. However, of course, we abandoned that discipline back in 1971 and have since seen inflation erode the dollar's value. So what is the foundation of your savings? Is it gold or something that could be shaken, disrupted, or devalued? Now, Birch Gold Group has been helping Americans solidify their savings with gold for the past 15 years. They'll help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Learn how gold can fit into your portfolio by simply texting the word Trump to 989898. You'll receive a free, no-obligation info kit. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, let Birch Gold help build your foundation with gold. Again, text Trump to that number, 989898, Trump to 989898. Well, it's 3:44 Eastern Time, looking live there outside of, well, actually, it's Washington, D.C. right there, as the camera kind of moves around a little bit. Sometimes we see the White House or the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. Meantime, many of you may have seen the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs testimony of Anthony Fauci. Here's a brief back and forth with, actually, before we go to that, I promised that I would share with you. They didn't say the word promise, but let's go to clip 12 where there's the renderings of the new Washington Dulles International Airport. I believe there are a few pictures there. If you've flown through Dulles, you may know about those pod transportation vehicles, those transport vehicles from terminal to terminal. The door literally opens, like Sean Duffy said, the Secretary of Transportation, kind of like a Star Wars effect there. You get on those vehicles and you go on the tarmac. You see 737s and 777s, 777s, and other planes, 757s and on. But now they're going to have a horseshoe train kind of rail system. So it's going to be quite the upgrade for Washington Dulles International Airport. All right, from that, we go to, again, the back and forth with Senator Rand Paul and Fauci, who pled the fifth 111 times. Let's go to clip number 1.
Arising from or in any manner related to your service as Director of the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, as a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, or the White House COVID-19 Response Team, or as Chief Medical Advisor to the President. Have you refused this pardon, or do you have any reason to believe this full and unconditional pardon, this grant of immunity, would somehow require you to plead the Fifth Amendment?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Based on the facts presented, I'm going to direct you to answer the questions. The committee has issued a valid subpoena. They have requested your presence here. The questions are very pertinent to your decision-making as head of NIAID, as well as a chief advisor to the president. Do you still refuse to answer the questions?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Let's do Dr. Fauci, were you ever made aware of gain-of-function research on monkeypox being conducted at the National Biodefense Analysis and Countermeasure Center, NBAC, at Fort Detrick?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Dr. Fauci, did the CIA ever transfer funds to NIH under an interagency agreement?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
I don't want to see a frozen shot of Fauci. Ugh, man, that was tough to watch earlier today. And of course, the Senate hearing and testimony of Fauci, you know, when there was the line of questioning from Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, was quite the kind of fireworks as people were playing that. And also the Bernie Moreno one from Ohio. So maybe we'll get to that clip from Josh Hawley. In the meantime, we're going to go to a couple sponsors, but that's not before we go to clip number 3. Washington, D.C., of course, safe and beautiful again, thanks to President Trump's leadership. Let's take a look at clip number 3.
The work to achieve a safe and beautiful capital did not end with the incredible Independence Day celebration. It continues now. It continues every day. Under President Trump's leadership, Washington, D.C. is moving towards a safe and beautiful capital that the American people deserve. We are committed to making every national park, every memorial, every monument, every place that we are entrusted to steward, that we are going to leave those better than we found it.
And since we just saw the Secretary of Transportation, let's stick with the DOT and the Federal Aviation Administration's video about the American aerospace industry. Let's go to clip number 4.
These moments when we dared to aim higher, to break barriers, to reach for the stars, to make the unknown known. To count these moments as our proudest achievements, that we are still pioneers, that we've barely begun, and that our greatest accomplishments cannot be behind us, because our destiny lies above us.
All right, as we get ready to go to the Missouri Senator Josh Hawley for that back and forth with Fauci in just a little bit, let's go to some of our great sponsors. As you take that live look, you see some tourists there in D.C. It's great to see that. Kalshi.com/RSBN. A lot of political trending topics, as you guys know. We talk about that a lot here. Of course, will the Save America Act pass, or when will X, Y, and Z happen? All sorts of political questions there, specifically with the midterms, the presidential cycle election. Of course, that's a bit down the road, but if you're looking to bet or trade or just check out some polls, you can. Kalshi.com. You have 3 ways to get there. QR code, Kalshi.com/RSBN, and also downloading the Kalshi app on your app store, whether that's Google or Apple, of course. Let's go from Kalshi to one of our other great sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. As I'm looking for it, here we go, Cove Pure. Most of us know, of course, there's chlorine in our tap water. Sometimes we smell it and we shrug and then we drink it anyway because we've been told it's what keeps our water safe. But what they don't tell you is what chlorine becomes after it's added to your water, and that's why it's so important to filter your water through Cove Pure, because chlorine itself isn't even the biggest problem. You know, we're told that chlorine levels in your water, of course, are regulated. But what's not regulated is chemicals that form when chlorine reacts with naturally occurring organic matter from rivers, soil, and plant matter. When chlorine interacts with those particles, it creates chemical byproducts called THMs. So the government itself calls these THMs probable human carcinogens. They've been linked to disruption of your gut and also linked to cancer. So those pitcher filters that you get at the store, they just won't fix this. They improve one thing. They improve the taste of chlorine by masking it. But THMs require something far more powerful. Enter Cove Pure. Their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. And it's not just chlorine or THMs. Fluoride, PFAs, pharmaceuticals. If it isn't water, Cove Pure removes it. And this thing doesn't take up much room at all. It looks great on a countertop. You don't have to call someone in to install it. You just plug it in. And then also the best part about Cove Pure is it lets you choose whatever temperature water you want. So no more waiting for the kettle to boil to make a cup of tea or coffee. Just tap a button and you get hot, cold, or warm water instantly. But this isn't just tap water going through that Cove Pure. When it comes out of the spigot there, it's definitely filtered through that reverse osmosis system. You know, the feedback on Cove Pure from our viewers has been incredible. People have told us they can literally taste the difference. And clean water is one of the best investments you can make for you and your family's health. Right now, they're giving RSBN viewers $250 off. Go to covepure.com/RSBN. There's the website right there, covepure.com/RSBN. All right, let's move on as we are standing by for really something I haven't seen yet today. I heard about it. I saw within our internal communications here at the network, just the link being passed around because we have to post it, that kind of thing. So what we're about to watch, I'm going to watch for the first time. I saw a lot of the Senate hearing with Fauci, but I didn't see this. So let's watch together, maybe for the first time, Senator Josh Hawley's line of questioning with the hack, Anthony Fauci.
Mr. Chairman, well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color is the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs, they know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic, you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
You remember Greg Folkers? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Your chief of staff is the answer. Do you remember Patricia Conrad? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
She was your personal assistant. And what were these individuals doing in the depth of the pandemic in November of 2020 when millions of Americans were suffering from COVID? What were they doing? I tell you what they're doing. Folkers was on your behalf soliciting and gathering information for a cash award. Let's look at it. We've got his email right here, right over my shoulder. Volker says, I'm working on this nomination for the Dan David Award for Fauci. We need to beef up the COVID part. Do you have language in the can that you could share that delineates how we responded in new ways to COVID? He sends this to multiple federal employees. What was the Dan David Award? Do you remember, Doc?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It was a $900,000 cash award. $900,000 cash award. And he got it because he used federal employees to get it. And this wasn't the only award, was it, Dr. Fauci? In fact, you applied for and received at least 8 other federal cash prizes on federal time using federal employees and federal resources. Here they are over my shoulder. Besides the Dan David Award, you've got the Partnership for Public Service, you've got the Adelson Prize, you've got the Smithsonian Award, you've got the National Academy of Medicine's Award, you've got the CDC Foundation. In fact, you turned your staff into a full-time application machine. You actually wrote to people and said, do you think maybe I'd qualify? And you got cash for all of this. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 employees, was it? In fact, you used 8 separate federal employees on federal time using federal resources to solicit cash awards. Isn't that true?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Here they are right over my shoulder. Here's all of them. The people that you use, federal employees, so that you could go and get cash money. And the most hilarious part is that you weren't content to even dragoon them into applying for all of these cash awards. You then had them go out to the ethics agencies and ethics watchdogs and demand that you be able to get the money. That's right. We've got it in your emails. Your staff and employees on federal time, using federal resources, being paid with federal dollars, are soliciting cash for you. And then they're turning around and saying to the agency, we don't want just an answer. We want to get to yes, because Fauci wants the money. He wants it. We want to get to yes, and yes takes time. This is your chief of staff again, using federal email to pressure the agency's own ethics people so that you could get money, so that you could get rich. And it violated the law, didn't it, Dr. Fauci? Didn't it? It violated the law, didn't it? It is a question. You can answer. Go ahead.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Federal law, as you very well know, prohibits the solicitation of cash awards or other personal benefits for federal employees. And it certainly prohibits using your own employees to do this. 5 CFR section 2635-205B, it says it right there in black and white. You cannot use federal resources, federal dollars, federal employees, federal offices, federal email, federal time to solicit cash awards, and you did all of it, and the worst part is thousands of people were dying while you were doing it. You were supposed to be the nation's doctor, and you're playing one on TV, but this is what you were doing with your time. Isn't that true?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Yeah, I can see why. I can certainly see why. You know what I can't quite figure out is that why you were so obsessed with it, because you're already rich. I mean, and your scheme worked here. I mean, your net worth now is north of $12 million. You got over $1 million in cash awards during COVID, during a 12-month, 24-month span during COVID. $1 million you knocked down in cash money using federal resources. Now you're worth more than $12 million. You've got a pension that in its first year paid out north of $400,000 a year. 1 million people dead, you're getting rich. 1 million people dead, you're using federal employees to get cash awards for you. 1 million people dead, and you're here taking the fifth because you don't want to admit that what really happened in all that time was a multi-month, multi-year course of self-dealing. Isn't that true, Dr. Fauci?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Yeah, well, silence is admission. And here's the real thing. At the end of the day, it wasn't just about the money, really, was it? It was really about a power trip. I mean, through all of this, you want to be the most famous scientist in the world. You were so focused on getting every award and every drop of cash that you could, all because you wanted to be on TV. You wanted to be the sun god of science. You wanted to be the guy who was in charge of it all. You wanted to lambast Trump. You wanted to make sure that nobody else stole your spotlight. You wanted to be the guy. You had time to sit for InStyle magazine. Here's what you were doing with your time. You could sit for InStyle magazine, but you can't answer questions for the American people. You could sit for InStyle magazine, but you're here taking the fifth. You could sit for InStyle magazine and get $1 million in cash awards, but now the cat's got your tongue. I bet he does. I tell you what, here's my conclusion from all of this. This was really all about you the whole time. Somewhere along the way, you lost your way. You may have been a good public servant at one time, I don't know. But I can tell you from reading your emails now, from looking at what you did, how you used your employees, somewhere along the line, it became all about you. You became a narcissist and a megalomaniac and a liar. And you've lied to the American people, and you've lied to this body. And you've disgraced your profession by doing it. You called yourself the most famous scientist in the world. You've done more to harm science than anybody in my lifetime. And I hope you'll go home and write that in your diary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it, basically, is what he is saying to Anthony Fauci. Wow. Didn't get a chance to see that back and forth. Whew. Unbelievable what we all had to go through from that pandemic. Anyway. All right, let's go to some of our sponsors. We still have some more to get to here on Right Side. Let's go to our first one. You're about to see it right there. FreeUSADoggift.com. FreeUSADoggift.com. Here's a fun fact. We know that our founding fathers loved their dogs just as much as we love ours. Turns out long before they were founding a nation, they were the original dog people, tails wagging in the halls of Mount Vernon and Monticello, muddy paw prints on important documents, probably. Our founders love their dogs every bit as much as we love ours today. With America's 250th birthday, what better way to get kids excited about history than through the goofy, loyal, tail-wagging companions who were there for it all? Our friends at the Kids Guide have put together a great guide called The Kids Guide to the Founders' Furry Friends, giving kids a fun and heartwarming look at the dogs who stood and sat and probably begged for scraps beside our nation's founders. You know, this is the perfect keepsake souvenir for kids. They're giving it away for free at freeusadoggift.com. Plus, when you request your copy, they're also giving you a second free guide called The Kids Guide to the Founders' Message for Today, a must-read for every child. So during these dog days of summer, head on over to freeusadoggift.com right now to get these free guides for your family and help celebrate America's 250th birthday the right way. Let's go from that sponsor to this one, tnusa.com/RSBN. You know, sometimes with the financial headaches that can be happening out there, one of them could be this, settling your back taxes. Maybe you missed a year back in the day, or maybe you have filed every year but still keep owing. However your tax issue started, the outcome unfortunately is the same. Your balance is not going down. Penalties are growing. Interest compounds. And then you still have all these financial questions going on. And the IRS, they're not waiting. The IRS enforces collections through wage garnishments, bank levies, property seizures. They can even file for you without your consent. So this is really where Tax Network USA comes in. With over 15 years in business, there hasn't been a tax case they haven't seen or resolved. They specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. So whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. And they can do the same for you, but you have to call now. They're offering a free investigation call with the IRS. And then after that investigation, they put a clear case plan in place to resolve your tax problem and get you back on track. This is really about using your legal rights to take control before the government sets the terms for you. So don't wait for another IRS letter or a frozen bank account. Just give them a call at 877-479-6503. 877-479-6503. tnusa.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. A shout out to all of our sponsors on the network and all of our donors out there that send us donations as we continue to grow and expand here on a network that's been around since 2015. As we look live there, we did look live there at the Thomas Jefferson Memorial as the camera pans to the right. Obviously a mobile cam there that goes to the White House, the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, the Washington National Monument, and others. All right, it's 4:07, Wednesday, July 29th. Upcoming presidential schedule for you. On Friday, President Trump will have that cabinet meeting that'll be held at Camp David. And if you listen closely, President Trump said the following, that on September 24th, Chinese President Xi Jinping will be in Washington. That'll be quite the viewership day as well, September 24th. Meantime, let's go now to a new video brought to you by the United States Department of Commerce and Secretary Howard Lutnick, clip number 6.
We're here visiting Century Aluminum, which is now working 24/7, making aluminum right here in the United States of America.
We were less than 2 weeks away from closing this plant when the Trump administration stepped up and created an environment where we could reinvest in this plant. I'm really pleased to say we're back to 100% production as of today.
American production and American aluminum production is back.
And we go from the Secretary of Commerce to President Trump, clip number 7 here from one of his Truth Social posts saying, quote, Senator Ron Johnson is working hard with Senate Republican leadership to adopt a budget resolution before the August recess. This is the first step towards getting as much of the Save America Act as possible in a budget bill, funding our troops and helping our farmers. I'm calling on the Senate to get this critical first step done before the August recess. This resolution can be adopted at a simple majority threshold. Get it done. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Speaking of President Trump, of course, on Monday, he was in Michigan. Let's go to a recap video, clip number 11.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
Oh boy, you know what's funny? So that clip was a Make Comedy Great Again clip that we were going to play, but of course we didn't earlier. And I guess the clips got a little mixed up. That's all right. Let's take a quick commercial break. Oh, we can go to the real clip 11, I'm told. Context for that. I was going to say, here's Anthony Fauci saying his 111 plead the fifths, and then we accidentally played that video. Anyway, let's go to the real clip 11 here, the new White House video about the president's trip to Michigan on Monday.
I'm honored to be the first sitting president to visit one of the most storied places in the history of American automaking, and that's the world-famous General Motors Proving Ground. Thank you to the auto workers, the technicians, the mechanics, the welders, the engineers of General Motors. Today I'm proud to say that the auto industry is back and America is back, and it's pulling Detroit and Michigan along with it.
You saved our domestic auto industry. Thank you.
With your help and patriots all across this magnificent land, we will make America powerful again. We will make America strong again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Michigan. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Good times here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I think we're going to do this. This is something I've never done before. We're going to give it a try. So, Director, can we pull up the chat, the live chat right now? We're going to ask our viewers what they want to see next. And I won't be offended if you pick the other thing. It's okay. So we have the choice here because we saw earlier today, right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, the Kentucky Senator Rand Paul's opening statement. So that's something you could watch on replay. We also played our interview, or my interview, with the RNC Chairman, Joe Gruters. So let's give it to you to vote. We're going to either go with the Senator Rand Paul for the opening statement or the interview with RNC Chairman Joe Gruters. Both are about the same length of time before we wrap our broadcast. So this is the way we're going to end our broadcast today. So, Director, if we could pull that up. Okay, so there we go. So put the word Kentucky if you want to go to Kentucky Senator Rand Paul's opening statement, or put the letters RNC if you'd like to go to the RNC interview with the Chairman Joe Gruters. So as soon as we see whoever gets the 4 first, that's how we're going to roll with it. So, Director, if you can help me out with that. So we're looking for the word Kentucky or the letters RNC. We have 2 Rand Pauls. Okay, so so you have 1 Kentucky and 2 Rand Pauls. That's 3. As soon as 1 RNC, who's going to get there first? We're looking for the final clip of the day. It's going to be either the Kentucky Senator Rand Paul opening statement or our interview with the RNC Chairman Joe Gruters. Either way, all good. Glad to have you guys pick. I'm hearing RNC, Kentucky, RNC. I think we have somewhat of a tie, so this is what we can do. Let's do this. It looks like we're going to go to the Kentucky Senator Rand Paul's opening statement, as we will wrap our broadcast after that. Let's just go to All Family Pharmacy prior to doing that. All Family Pharmacy, you've probably been hearing about that cyclospora parasite that's been making headlines lately. Health officials are investigating this growing outbreak that has now been reported in more than half of our states, with 31 states so far. We know that RFK Jr. knows about this going on, and they're working on it, but the parasite can cause all sorts of symptoms, from stomach cramps, severe diarrhea, nausea, fatigue. It's also a good reminder that unexpected illnesses can happen, which is why it's important to have a pharmacy you can count on for easy access to essential medications and physicians that can provide a prescription when you need it. That's where All Family Pharmacy comes in. They've made healthcare simple. You can order medications on their website and get the prescription from their doctors if needed. Then your medications are shipped directly to your door. They offer antibiotics like Bactrim, which is commonly recommended for this infection, along with antiparasitic medications, everyday maintenance meds, allergy medications, and hundreds of other prescriptions. All you have to do is visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can also call them at that number you see on the screen there, 561-717-6794, 561-717-6794. If you have any questions at all, The great people at All Family Pharmacy will take on those questions and steer you in the right direction when it comes to these various prescriptions that they have. More than 400 there. Everything from ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, ibuprofen, Bactim, which is for this situation right now with that parasite. 561-717-6794. Let's go to another sponsor here on Right Side. In the meantime, Birch Gold Group specifically, we wouldn't be celebrating America 250 if it wasn't for a strong foundation set by the framers. Alexander Hamilton built America's financial foundation on the principle of sound, stable money, a principle later embodied by the gold standard. However, we abandoned that discipline 10 years before I was born, back in 1971. Born in 81, back in 71. And they abandoned that and have since seen inflation erode the dollar's value. So what is the foundation of your savings? Is it gold or something that could be shaken, disrupted, or devalued? Birch Gold Group has been helping Americans solidify their savings with gold for the past 15 years. And they'll help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. So learn how gold fits into your portfolio by texting that word Trump to the number 989898. You'll receive a free no-obligation info kit. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, let Birch Gold help build your foundation with gold. Just text the word Trump to that number, 989898. Again, Trump to 989898. For those of you still with us, thanks so much for sticking with us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network on the live feed. If you're watching on replay, thanks again. Of course, President Trump meeting with the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, around the 3 o'clock hour, talking about the Washington Dulles International Airport, the upgrades that are going to be seen there. Great to see that. And when we just took our quick poll, I heard a lot of RNCs and I heard a lot of Kentuckys. So guess what? Let's go with Kentucky. Senator Rand Paul's opening statements of the story of the day, outside of seeing the president, of course. Let's go to clip 10 to close our broadcast.
1 million Americans died from COVID-19. Some estimate as many as 15 million people died worldwide from COVID-19. Publicly, Anthony Fauci promoted the theory that the virus arose naturally, while privately, he was well aware of a mountain of evidence suggesting the virus originated in the lab. The American people deserve answers. The American people deserve to know why dangerous research was funded by NIAID in a totalitarian country, in a lab that lacked acceptable safety standards. The decision to fund dangerous gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China, will likely go down in history as perhaps one of the worst public health decisions. Frankly, the American people deserve an apology. I hope today Dr. Fauci will come clean, admit it was a mistake to fund dangerous research in China, admit that the risk of this dangerous research exceeded any possible benefits, ask forgiveness, and pledge to help our government devise safeguards so a man-made epidemic never happens again. Instead of an apology, you have for years avoided responsibility. Regarding the lockdowns, you argue that you did not personally issue every lockdown order, close every school, or impose every mandate. But officials across the country invoked your authority to justify these decisions. And you presented your recommendations not as judgments open to debate, but as dictates of science itself. Your own words demonstrate that you understood the influence you exercised. On March 14th, 2020, you wrote that the task force recommendations were driven by me, yourself, Deb, and CDC. The next day you wrote that you had convinced Mayor Bill de Blasio to close the New York City schools, so you were involved. That same night, Governor Gavin Newsom's chief of staff told you that the governor had decided to close California schools, bars, and restaurants after watching you on television. Presidents, governors, mayors, school boards, corporations, and Congress all bear responsibility for the decisions they made. The COVID lockdown, however, could never have been inflicted without you aiding and abetting the crime. Children lost years of education. Small businesses built over a lifetime disappeared. Patients delayed cancer screenings and other medical care. Families were separated from dying relatives. Workers were ordered to accept a medical procedure or lose their jobs. Worship assembly, employment, education, and travel were restricted in the name of science. While you did not impose every restriction, you used your public authority to justify them. While you concluded publicly that COVID occurred naturally, your private record tells a different story. In early 2020, your hand-picked virologist warned that the virus appeared to have been manipulated in the lab. In a conference call concerning the origin of the virus, all but 2 of the participants believed deliberate insertion was possible. Your concern was not merely theoretical. That same week, you led an urgent effort to determine whether your own agency had funded the research related to these experiments that were now under suspicion. Hours later, your assistant reported that the Wuhan experiments had indeed been reviewed and approved by the NIH. Those were not the actions of officials who believed that a research-related origin was an absurd conspiracy theory. They were the actions of officials urgently trying to determine whether their agency funding was connected to the research under discussion, connected to the pandemic. You could not hide that your agency had funded the Wuhan research or your long history of defending gain-of-function research. The only alternative left was to argue that COVID-19 did not originate in the Wuhan lab. You were not a detached observer. You had an institutional interest in the public believing that federally funded research had nothing to do with the pandemic. It was a conflict of interest from the very beginning. The authors of the proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2 privately had serious doubts about a natural origin. Within days, though, they flipped, and they all wrote in proximal origin that the virus was almost certainly not a laboratory construct. That paper was then used by the government and the media and you to discredit Americans who were asking the same questions that you and the authors were asking yourselves privately. You even cited proximal origin from the White House podium. You held it out as evidence that the virus could not have been engineered, but you didn't disclose your role in the discussions that preceded the writing of the paper. You did not disclose the author's original concerns. You did not reveal that you had been part of the paper, that you had read and offered editorial comments on the paper before it was published, before you began using it as evidence that it couldn't have originated in the lab. You did not disclose that you had immediately investigated yourself whether NIAID funding might be connected to the research. You did not tell the American people the full story. Duly released private messages indicate that the doubts with the authors and others didn't disappear after the publication. So while this was being waived at the White House to show that it couldn't come from the lab, the authors were still privately continuing to assign a meaningful probability to a laboratory origin, one thing in public and another in private. Some of the same scientists discussed avoiding email and carefully managing communications that might eventually be obtained under the Freedom of Information Act. The pattern is straightforward. Privately, there was alarm, then an immediate inquiry to see if NIAID's possible exposure to funding, then a rapid public declaration of certainty, continued private doubt, and then years of resistance to disclosure. The question is why? The only logical answer is that your primary concern was avoiding culpability. Your primary concern was hiding the fact that you had approved the funding for this dangerous research. Your support of gain-of-function research is extensive and long-standing. In 2011, your agency funded Ron Fauci's laboratory when it mutated the avian flu until it could spread through the air between mammals. This was the tipping point. This is when others became worried. You funded this. You advocated for this. The federal government's own biosecurity board, though, recommended withholding the details of these experiments because of the danger the research posed. People were concerned that publishing it was publishing a roadmap to creating bioweapons around the world. But you sided with the gain-of-function scientist Fauci and argued that the benefits of publishing the research far outweighed the risks. You defended this avian flu transmissibility experiments as critical research. You wrote that even if a scientist became infected and triggered a pandemic, the benefits of the gain-of-function experiments outweighed the risk. In 2014, your agency, NIAID, began funding the Wuhan bat coronavirus work. In 2015, Ralph Barrick and the Chinese scientist Shi Zhengli published NIAID-supported research combining a bat coronavirus spike protein with a SARS backbone. The resulting virus could infect human airway cells. It's a novel virus that now can infect human cells. It gained transmissibility, it gained function. In 2018, the same group of scientists, EcoHealth, Barrick, Shi, and their collaborators submitted the diffuse proposal, which involved the insertion of a furin cleavage site into the coronavirus. DARPA rejected it as too dangerous. When COVID was sequenced, though, early on in January of 2020, within days, scientists discovered that, lo and behold, it had a novel furin cleavage site, just as had been proposed in the diffuse product. This was either an extraordinary coincidence or a smoking gun, evidence that the Chinese had created COVID-19. It made the laboratory origin question more legitimate, and it made your categorical public denials indefensible. On May 11th, 2021, you told the Senate the NIH has never, ever, and does not now fund gain-of-function research in Wuhan, in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. When I gave you the opportunity to correct the record, to reconsider the statement, you responded that you had never before lied to Congress. We were then told that only the government's narrowest regulation of definition counted here, that you could define gain of function in one way in which this wasn't gain of function, in which all of the common sense of the world would be thrown out, all of the idea that the mice were dying and the virus was more transmissible didn't matter because you had a technical definition that allowed you to fund it. But the real question is, was it dangerous? Was it a wise decision to fund this? And you haven't deviated from that. You've never admitted that it could have been a mistake funding this research in China. The American people weren't asking for a semantics debate over what is gain of function. They were asking, does common sense say this research was dangerous in Wuhan? They wanted to know whether their money-funded experiments in Wuhan that made bat coronaviruses better able to infect humans. The answer is yes. They wanted to know whether NIAID adequately supervised their work. The answer is no. When you defended this research, you described its benefits in the broadest terms. But when Congress demanded accountability, you hid behind the narrowest possible definition. You can't have it both ways. Your conduct concerning federal records raises further questions. It is a crime to destroy federal records. Yet our investigation reveals your assistant diligently reported that she deleted tons of emails. In 2024, you testified that you did not delete federal records. Who's telling the truth, you or your assistant? The committee has obtained repeated instructions from you telling federal officials to delete communications. On February 2nd, 2020, one day after Origin's call, you told Francis Collins, please delete this email after you read it. The committee asked for your voluntary cooperation to come today. Your appearance had to be compelled by subpoena. You're here today under duress. You're here today because of the court ordering it. President Biden issued you a sweeping pardon extending back to 2014, the same pardon he gave to his son Hunter. A pardon may protect a person from criminal prosecution, doesn't rewrite history. It does not erase documents. It does not convert a misleading statement into a truthful one. And it does not prevent Congress from establishing what happened. There will be another pandemic. There will be another crisis. And there will again be officials who insist that uncertainty must be hidden for the public's own good. They will demand obedience. They will invoke science. I am the science, as though it were a commandment. They will argue that government officials cannot be questioned because questioning them would undermine public trust. They have it backwards. It is secrecy that destroys trust. It is arrogance that destroys trust. It is censorship that destroys trust. And it is the refusal to admit error that destroys trust. That loss of trust may be your most damaging legacy. Trust can't be ordered. It has to be earned. No scientist is above scrutiny. No government official is beyond accountability. And no public servant has the right to treat the suffering of millions of Americans as a footnote to his preferred version of history. I now recognize Senator Peters for his opening remarks.
All right, so Senator Paul there out of Kentucky talking really directly to Anthony Fauci. You know, I was wondering if he was reading notes or if he had a teleprompter or if he remembered all of that information when I watched that the first time. All right, so if you'd like to see that RNC interview with the chairman, Joe Gruters, we've posted it all across our social media platforms. He caught up with us a little bit earlier today, so it was great to see that. As we're approaching the bottom of the hour, let's go to a couple more sponsors, mypillow.com/RSBN. Of course, many great products on mypillow.com/RSBN. One of them, my coffee, is very good. The pillows, great. The bed, the mattress topper, great. The sheets are awesome. The towels, the list goes on really. So just check it out, mypillow.com/RSBN. If you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to MyPillow, actually, rsbnetwork.com/donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate. Of course, as we grow and expand here at Right Side, as it's 4:30 Eastern Time. Thanks again for watching here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll see you tomorrow as we await the next event that'll happen in Washington, D.C.